first thing women notice? Your face. That's why you got to take care of. Simple things like getting a haircut, grooming your face, and brushing your teeth is important. But there's one thing guys miss and that women always notice. It's when a guy isn't taking care of his skin. That's why I'm so excited to have T. Shannon as a sponsor of today's video. T. Shannon simplifies the process of taking care of your skin. They provide you with all the products you need and nothing you don't. Seriously, I don't think some of you believe me when I tell you how much implementing a quality skincare routine will improve your confidence in all aspects of your life. I recommend you start with the level 1 system, which comes with all the basics: daily face wash, exfoliating scrub, an AM moisturizer with an SPF 20 and a PM moisturizer. But and to make it dead simple for you guys, they provide an instruction card in every box that tells you when to use each product, how much to use, and in what order. But because T just sponsoring this video, they're offering you an amazing deal. Just click the first link in the description and get 40% off your first skincare system and free gift. Plus, as a member, you'll get 20% off for life. By the way, one of their new gift options is a silicone body scrubber, which is a $20 value and a complete game changer. Once you use this, you'll never go back to a regular loofah ever again. So don't wait any longer. Click the first link in the description to start your skincare journey today.
Maintaining your beard isn't just style, it's self-respect. A well-groomed beard boosts confidence and leaves a lasting impression. Elevate your look. Embrace the importance of beard care today. All right, it's go time, y'all. What's going on, family? How y'all doing? Welcome to Hump Day Shannon-nigans. Let me go ahead and introduce the crew. We got Lee Rain, Miss Kelly, Raymond, Pink, Luis, Di, Ty. Oh, we got 2 guys. Let me take out one of these. There you go. What's going on, family? I'm Lapeef JI. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? I'll turn my camera on in a second. I had to restart something. How y'all doing?
Good.
How y'all doing? I thought y'all was supposed to turn it up. Come on, Ty.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
Good.
Good evening. How we doing tonight, ladies?
There you go.
Happy Hump Day.
Yes.
Happy Hump Day. Good to see you guys. Again, I'll turn my camera on momentarily, so just give me a second. I'll be on in 1 second. Shout out to the sponsor, T. Shannon, Uncomplicated Skincare for Men, 40% off along with a free gift. And if you become a member, you get 20% off for life. Click that link that's in the description. We also got your Assured Man, King on top. This is for the beards. Gentlemen, I understand some ladies have beards, and if you so choose to purchase, then go right on ahead. But if your woman is complaining about your beard not being soft, if it's patchy, it's not connecting, this is your go-to system. That link is pinned to the top of the chat, and it's also in the description. Hit the like button. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. What's going on, brother? Really good to see you in the house. If you are catching us on a replay, we appreciate you. Also, hit that like button. We got a great show ahead for you guys. We're going to be focusing mostly on communication this show. We do have some clips that we're going to run back, get you guys reactions, and it always is a good thing to get fresh perspectives from everyone. So feel free to say it how you want, say it with your chest. All right, sound like a plan? I know Ty used to it. She ready. Ready? 28 too, Miss Ty.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Ramy, we're gonna see what you're talking about with all these topics as well. I heard you was very modest, very mindful.
Sure.
Yeah, we're gonna
Very
see.
demure.
There you go. We got an icebreaker we're gonna kick it off with, man. DC Young Flat did speak passionately at Rich Homie Quan's funeral. So I'm gonna play that and get you guys reactions to it. Again, this is the icebreaker. Here we go.
Corey said it yesterday. She said, I'm going off how my mama going. But how you moving, Ma, is how we supposed to move during these times. Because all the morals and the doctrines, this is the only time that we really apply it. When we hurt. Job. Everybody go read the book of Job. Just read the book of Job. He took everything from Job. He kept snatching everything from Job. And Job, like every Christian that, everybody like, I put so much good into the world. Why so much bad coming to me? He like, you know what? I ain't really been bad to nobody. I just want to talk to him. I want to ask him why. Why he doing this to me? God looked at him and said, who you talking to? Why not you? This is the time for you to praise my name. This is the time for you to tell the other people through the midst of pain, I'm the one that's giving you the strength, fool. So when people think you crazy, Mom, you ain't crazy. You being obedient. And I'm here to tell the family, big bro, so it's time to be obedient. It's time to take charge. Because I know the twilight zone is real, but guess what? It's real. This is the real. And I understand the pain. This is a familiar pain. And I'm here to tell you as a soldier, I'm strapped up with you. I'm ready to fight with you. You understand? So continue to be a leader to the family. Listen, it ain't over with, y'all. It ain't over with. He did what he was supposed to do. We all on borrowed time. Nobody in here know how they gonna leave. But when you leave and we meet our maker, we want to make sure, hey, wasn't I obedient? Didn't I do the best I could? So we're going to keep his name alive, and I want to tell the family, I love y'all, and I'm here with you forever. Keep God first, everybody. Quan, I love you, big bro. You a legend.
All right, there we go. This is the icebreaker, man. DC Young Fly spoke passionate and rich homies, Quan's funeral. We're all on borrowed time. I'm going to start with you, Louise. What were your thoughts about that?
I mean, he did his thing delivering it. I mean, especially, based on his personality and who he is. And I think that the message, could probably resonate with a lot of younger people, understanding that, don't harbor, ill will, don't waste time, trying to fix things that have now been past you, but rather focus on, I'm getting a lot of major feedback right now. Don't focus on the things that you can't control, but rather focus on the things that you are doing. These kinds of moments are more of lessons, right? Because when the good times are good, all you can do is just ride the wave of the good times. And, it's the hard times that build character, and it kind of allows you to persevere and reminds you of how you got here. It reminds you of that kind of ability to reach deep inside of you and kind of push through. A loss is very hard of a family member, friend, any member. But I think it's also important to show, strength and show the type of character that you need to carry for your family, for your friends, and also for your community. I think you're getting a lot of feedback.
Yeah, let's make sure we mute up in between, y'all. Make sure we mute in between. Go ahead, Nee. What are your thoughts about it, man?
I think it was a good message to the family, and it kind of goes along with what Lewis said, is just to be present, making sure that your impact is solid. Going along also with the topic of today's podcast, communicating with everyone in real time, and just making sure that as you interact with loved ones, people, friends, family, whoever, that you're coming from a genuine space and communicating in a genuine form of fashion.
All right. Let's go to Ramy, then Hink.
I just think it was a good message. It encompassed a lot. Like, first of all, he left us the gym to go research something. Like, that's always good to leave somebody with something, because you never know who got what from that. The book of Job it's not, I'm just saying, like, that was cool. And I think, like you said, life keeps going. Stuff happens to everybody, and it's about how you move forward with what that person left. What would I do if this person was, they are with me because they left something that imprinted me, if that makes sense. So that's what I think about what he said.
So, I don't know if the message was for the people or for himself. I feel like it's more so for himself. He was speaking to himself. He was talking to himself. He might have been sharing with the audience, but he's speaking for himself because all the stuff, I guess, what he went through, especially, with the loss of his wife, a couple of his homeboys now, his homie Quan. So I don't know if he was really speaking for Quan more so than himself, because I guess he felt like, all the stuff he's been through and his faith has maybe been challenged. I guess he felt like he's been called to the carpet a couple times, especially with all these people who he deems brothers and people he's considered close. So but it was a good message. It's definitely what it said. I think we all on ball time. I think if we don't realize that, then I think we're still asleep. It's a short time. We only get one shot at this. Ain't no hitting the reset button. Ain't no do-overs. You can't get mad at the game like we used to play back in the days. I'm old, so ladies, be patient with the old man like myself. Used to play Nintendo, and cats used to get mad when you was blowing them out in Tecmo Bowl, to the point where, we hit that reset button, try to, start the game over. Ain't none of that in life. That's it. You get one shot at this thing. You got to make the best of it. Either you're gonna rise to the occasion, do what you plan on doing, what your success goal, and whatever you have your purpose is about, or you're gonna fail. And I'll leave it there.
All right. Go ahead, Miss Kelly.
Yeah, I think his message was heartfelt. I think he's definitely probably speaking from personal experience. I also feel like a lot of times people can listen to words and relate, but they don't really understand until something happens to them. So until you experience loss from a personal standpoint, you're never going to understand like somebody else who's suffered that loss. So I think he's pretty wise to be so young too, and I like that about him. And I like the fact that he's in touch spiritually. So I think the message was great, and I think people should pay attention because yes, we are on borrowed time.
I appreciate that. Go ahead, Miss Di.
I can imagine she's speaking a word, but we can't hear it. That's the only bad thing.
Either that or we just found out she's mute.
Oh, we can't hear you. No, if you're on your phone, go back out and come back in. Just press the refresh button if you're on your phone. You might have got a phone call. Go ahead, Ty.
Like everyone else said, I thought that was an amazing message. I really liked how he referenced the book of Job. And for a lot of people who don't know the book of Job, it's really about a man who was doing everything according to God's will, and then God took it all away from him just to show the devil that he couldn't persuade him to go in a different direction and that he would still stay loyal. I thought that was a great reference because a lot of times when we go through hardships, when we lose people that are really close to us, when we go through trials and tribulations, we tend to always look to God or just take that moment to say, like, why me? Why is this happening? Why did I lose that person? Why am I going through this grief? And he just made it clear that it's not what's happening to you. It's you learning that life is always going to throw you curveballs, right? But you have to be grateful in the moments that you got to share with the people that you lost and the lessons that you're learning through the trials and tribulations that you're going through. I agree with Kelly in stating that he is an amazing speaker. I love how he always gets his point across and the way he uses his words to inspire people, especially because you just see him as a comedian a lot of the times, and he always is cracking jokes. So when he takes the moment to get spiritual and get deep and show that he has depth and that he can really, what do I want to say? Just give a message that really touches a lot of people. I really like that about him. But I thought that was an amazing message, and I really do hope that a lot of his family took something away with that and got some strength from it, because life is going to happen. We're all going to lose people, and we all are on borrowed time. No one knows what's going to happen tomorrow, so you got to be grateful today.
All right, absolutely. Miss Dad, you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Okay, good. Okay, hey y'all, I'm Dad. Just a little background about me. I am very personal. I'm very open. Things that I've been through in my life. If I'm ashamed of them, I want to talk about it. But sometimes people, like, I can't believe you said that. But I did relate to his story a lot. I like the fact that he brought up the Book of Job because my child's father had accidentally killed himself when she was 6 months. And he wasn't just like that, but he was like my best friend, my high school sweetheart. Even when we weren't together, we still friends, chopping it up like genuine friendship. So when I went through that grief, the first 2 years, I tried to deal with it like everybody else. Like, oh, okay, I'll get over it. Okay, today is a sad day, but I got to go to work. So I tried not to internalize it. And the more I tried not to internalize it, the harder it got. And in the midst of that, when it got hard, everything was just taken away from me. I graduated high school at 16. I couldn't even go to school. I couldn't think. I tried to force myself to work. I couldn't work. So I understood what he said. And when you, I guess to me, it felt like he was talking to the people that was out there. I didn't feel like it was only for himself. And that's the best part about grief, because everybody like, oh, I can't believe that happened to you. But all glory be to God, everything happens for a reason. And if it wasn't for that death happening the way it happened, I wouldn't be as close to God or as spiritual as I am now. So when he said that, I think when he was on that stage, he felt the grief of other people. He felt the grief because those people there, they're grieving in a way that he did. His loss was big, but there's somebody that was in the audience that Rich Homie Quan was there, just like his was basically there, what his baby mama is to him, that's what Rich Homie crying was to them. So he's just letting them know, I know if it, like, even in that moment, even if everything wasn't taken away, sometimes when dealing with grief, everything will be taken away because God needs to heal you. Sometimes he needs to seclude you from your environment. And that's the way I see it. When I was secluded from my environment, it was just to heal me, because unfortunately some of us, especially people who enjoyed the things that Rich Homie Quan talked about in his music, it hurts when you heal in that manner. It doesn't help. So then God has to seclude you so you can know the correct way to heal, sometimes take you back to your roots, because our ancestors are still there. So his message overall, it definitely hit home. I feel like what he said, I say to a lot of people. So it's like, oh, okay, so he is in tune. We are one. When he was talking about grief, it was something I could relate to. So I think he is very, when his BM died, I'm glad we were able to see this side of him. And I know he's sad and upset about it, but he needs to understand everything happens for a reason. And now he can deliver a more spiritual message to our people to help us heal. So that was my take on it.
Appreciate that, Dad, and our condolences as well.
Thank you.
All right, no problem. Go ahead, King Talk TV. I'm not sure if you got the opportunity to see. You see it?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the clip. The clip, I had seen it previously. So I'll say this: he's been speaking from his soul ever since, and I do think when he was, I get the perspective of him talking to himself and having a message that vibrates with everybody else, because we've all suffered some sort of loss, some sort of something that we're, whether it is a life or something just had a profound meaning to us, right? So we connect with the message, and it's been, I don't know, just personally, it's been really refreshing hearing him speak, like the things that he talks about, the fact that you got to keep going. I know what it feels like. A lot of the things he's talking about, like when you feel like you're doing what you're supposed to do, and then it's like, how much more do I need to lose? Right? Like, I joke with myself sometimes and I say, there's a saying, the Lord never gives you any more than you can bear. Sometimes I jokingly say that maybe he got me confused with somebody else this time. right? So I'm definitely joking when I say it, but saying it out loud makes me laugh. Like, so it gives me that extra change of mood energy that I needed, right? Because I'm in a moment when I'm thinking that anyways. So I say that foolishness out of my mouth, and I get at least a half a moment, but for a brief moment, I'm laughing about that and not thinking about whatever had me even in that path of thoughts. All right. So he's been speaking to me. He's got his soul is older than he is, you know, and so I like seeing where he is. That's probably the most I would say on that.
All right. Everybody spoke on this? Yeah. Everybody kind of summed it up, man. It was a good speech. Right moment, right time. You definitely can see. I read one in the comments that it is in him, not on him. So I think that was a good message right there. And I'm glad we was able to go to church on this Wednesday. It's almost like Bible study, right? I know some of y'all didn't expect to get this healing, but y'all got it today. So hopefully you guys can be free from whatever you guys are going through. And now it's time for us to get back to the regular program. All ready to turn up a little bit?
All right. Yeah, let's go.
All right. Ran across this clip, man. I'm gonna go ahead and play and then get you guys' reaction on it. I'll probably ask some questions. So speak whatever you want to speak on it, man. Don't be afraid. This is a safe space, all right?
For 15 years, we were married for 7. It was a beautiful thing, and we still had the normal ups and downs, but I will say we didn't have a relationship where we argued all the time. Yeah. We didn't have a relationship where we were dealing with infidelity or stuff like that, during those times. We didn't have that type of relationship, so, because we were friends first. Yeah. So it was always like, that's my homie. It was just something in me as a woman. I cannot explain it to where it was like I was battling myself. You feel like I'm trying to do the right thing, but it's something that's pulling me away from doing this. But why would it pull me away from my husband? I'm battling in the midst of that with religion, like what the people telling me at church and what I'm getting spiritual advice from. And then I'm battling with it with myself. Like, why am I feeling this way? I'm talking about I'm going to therapy for myself to figure out why am I feeling this way towards my husband. And the way I was feeling, it wasn't like I felt resentment towards him. It was almost like I was withholding a piece of me that I couldn't give him. I'm sitting on the couch and we had a small issue, and that small issue was back that pattern. Now, mind you, we done went to therapy for this. We done had talks for this. I done talked to you. What did you get from this after I said it? To make sure you understand, because I love to communicate. And I'm sitting on the couch, y'all, and I kid you not, God told me, that is not your husband.
All right, it was the wow for me. But after 15 years, God said that is not your husband's. The comments, it's not, it's always entertaining in the comments, but some of them are, that was not God, that was Satan. The streets were calling and she picked up the line. For some reason, I believe she knows exactly what she was battling. She's just not telling us, the Jezebel spirit, perhaps. So God waited 15 years to tell you he wasn't your husband. So these are just some of the things, man. Ain't no way God told you to leave a good marriage. I'm confused. Just because a man is good, a good man, that don't mean he's your good man. Seems like sis got bored and left. I'm curious to get you guys' thoughts. We often, almost like I said, we often see that, but we do see a lot of women just walk away from relationships because they're not happy for their happiness. So they may suggest that they marry for all the wrong reasons, but I am curious to get your thoughts. I'm gonna start with you first, Ty.
That was interesting. There are a few factors I feel like I need to know about this. For one, how old is she? She was with this man for 15 years. If she was only, let's say, 30, that means she's been with him since she was 15. Now, does that necessarily mean that I think God spoke to her on that couch? I don't really like to jump in and say when God is speaking to someone and when they're not. God speaks in many different ways. But from the outside looking in, I would more say that it wasn't necessarily God. It was her need for something different. Maybe, right? Especially if she was, let's say, only 30 and she's only been with this man since she was 15. A lot of people glorify long-term relationships and people that have been together since high school. But the reality is a lot of those marriages or relationships don't always pan out the way that we would think they would, right? They don't always last as long. And I think it's really because neither one of them, and whether it's a man or a woman, they haven't really had the time to live and learn themselves. She said she felt like it was a part of her that she couldn't share with him. No, it really was a part of her that she still didn't know, because she had always been this person with him. And as she grew older, maybe she began to change. And it's like, well, do I really like this? Do I want something else? She doesn't know because she's never tried anything different. Now, I know, men want a woman that's, or some men, I'm not going to say all men, some men want a woman that's never been with anyone but them. But unfortunately, sometimes when you have that situation, this is what you'll run into, is a woman who's looking for something else when she's 30, when she's 40, because she's only had you. And now she wants to go and have her fun. So do I really feel like God spoke to her? I don't know. That's tough. And I feel really bad for her husband, because everything she said was good. She said that he did nothing wrong. Even the small conversation, she didn't say that he dismissed her or didn't communicate with her or wasn't trying with her. It was all her. She was having an internal battle with herself, and she felt like her best thing was to get out and run. And to be honest, I mean, she really should have just stayed at home, because the streets is trash. Okay, ain't nothing out here in these streets, baby. But, she'll learn that on her own. And hopefully once she go back to her man, he might be good enough to take her back. I don't know. But the whole God spoke to her thing, that's tough. That's tough. I think it was more so of her just wanting to try something new, sadly.
Okay, go ahead, Miss Kelly.
Yeah, I personally, I can't say what God said to her, right? But I do know that with lack of experience, you tend to wonder about different things because you just don't have that experience. Everybody don't need that experience, but it seems like the ones that don't have it, they have that, they crave, something different. And like Ty said, she mentioned nothing negative about her husband. So I think the issues came from within. And I think those issues she could have managed within the marriage. But just walking away is a lack of communication. It's like, you should be able to work these things out. You're married. You shouldn't just, look, I'm not married. But I don't think that I could just easily walk away from my husband. Like, that's not a boyfriend. That's not just somebody that you're talking to. That's a serious relationship. So, she does look young. I will say that. That's really all I have. I just think communication is a lost art these days, for sure. Because I don't think hearing God say that's not your husband is enough reason to walk away, because maybe you heard something else, I don't know.
All these ladies are saying much more with their eyes than with their words. Like, I watched her in particular, and I'm so curious about what the raw version of your thoughts would be, because you were like, I felt like you were sitting there thinking, baby, I wouldn't do that. Like, the raw version would be so interesting.
So you're saying we need somebody to speak exactly what they feel?
Go ahead and say it. Yeah, come on now. It's
Go ahead and say it.
Say it.
Okay, well, Raimi is good at that.
All right, go ahead, Raimi.
Thank you, Kelly, because I ain't gonna hold you. I was starting to bubble and boil over here just a tad bit. I want to just first say that, like, Tay 8, when she started out with the thought that, like, where are we at? Like, I need more context of, just, is she 15 years in and you are a high school sweetheart? Because 15 years at any point, I don't care, at any age, 15 years is a long time to develop, grow, think. Now we're talking about who's going faster than the other, if we're keeping up with each other. And, I think that is a whole, like, another, like, mouthful. Like, as I said it, I felt like I was taking off a mouthful about the level at which somebody grows, and does that mean they don't love you because they chose not to grow with you? You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's a decision that a person has to make. Like, do I want to be in a relationship that's going to constantly grow because what's not growing is dead? So we got to make it make sense, you know. But then also Kelly spoke to me from a second perspective that, shoot, okay, what if I wasn't a high school sweetheart? I'm not speaking, you know, Kelly, this is not whether you are or not, but I'm just saying, like, considering, what if I've seen the dating pool, like Tay said, and it's Tay, right, sir? What Tay said, what if I've seen the dating pool and it's terrible, and it's just like, you know what, I'm gonna stick this out because I know what the person is capable of. They just in a rut right now, where they just, how long does a rut last? You know what I'm saying? So it's like everybody needed, to me, coming to the table with, I guess, what your capabilities are, this is what I'm gonna do. You know what I mean? And I know if nothing else, people have at least one or two things that they gonna do. You know what I mean? Other things we could trade in and trade out, but some stuff is just like a non-negotiable. And I'm gonna be honest, I think I've had some bigger homies, you know, some called bigger homies. Anybody that's 10 years plus older than me, that's a big homie to me, because you got a decade of knowledge, you know, to share. You know, where, like, I have big homies right now that feel kind of sent off by the generation before them. You know, they like, shoot, you know, they told us to go this route, and I'm like sitting in my choices now, and like they're resentful of them or regretting it because, you know, I followed this blueprint to marriage or to whatever the happy thing was, you know, to do, and it wasn't right. So I just to say all that to say, right, I can't say that because communication, right, like, is God speaking to the woman? What if God is her consciousness? And that it is something on her heart because she spoke it, right? If we're vessels for the Most High, you know, that's something that's going on with inside of her. And at the end of the day, nobody's going to be able to feel it but her. So if it is getting rid of that man or figuring it out and saying, you know what, let me think about this, let me get this right. I mean, people, I don't know what y'all would consider about, like, people that take breaks from one another, but, you know, 15 years, I don't know if they live together, right? Like, I just need more, I feel like I would need more context to continue going in on that. But in general, it's like, it's a lot to think about, that, you know, that clip.
Okay, go ahead, Dad. I see you over there smiling.
Because everybody basically was saying a lot of the stuff that I was thinking, but I'm also smiling because I can relate to her.
What?
I can relate to her. I can relate to her. I can relate to her. But not far as, see, me, I don't blame my intuition on God. God gives me my intuition. God helps me see myself. God helps me see myself, the person I'm dealing with. And it wasn't 15 years, but I just got out of a 6-year relationship because I did what you thought of, like what we as women think we supposed to do. Okay, I like this guy. I can chill with him. Oh, I feel like he respect me. Da 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 da. But then the rockiness started coming, and I know she said she didn't deal with any rockiness, but this is just, you know, just my point of view. The rockiness started coming, and I did what I was, you know, at least I felt like I did. I said, okay, first I got to get this man to know God. Okay, first, cool, check. Okay, the next thing I got to do is make sure that he has faith in himself. The only thing he thought he could do was warehouse work. He just graduated from Illinois Media School. So I'm just going through these things. And once I checked off everything on the list, and it was time for him to make up for the things that he did. It was time for him to provide. It was time for him to do everything that he was supposed to do. And I'm like, now it was time for him to do for me. I'm like, this ain't my person. Like, I didn't think, it just didn't feel, I understand how she feels. Like, somebody could be doing everything right. They could be doing everything right. And I forgave him, genuinely forgave him. Like, even to this day, if he called me like, oh, I need this, I can forgive you. But honest to honest, I know that you're doing what you're supposed to do, but I just didn't feel like he was my person. And it wasn't that God didn't tell me that. It's just like she said, before the 6 years, I didn't really know myself. I didn't, because I'm 33 now, so that means I dated him when I was 27. Just now, you know, still kind of in my trauma, but I didn't know myself. And as I got to know myself, I'm like, okay, I can't deal with this. This is a deal breaker for me. Okay, this is not a deal breaker for me. I can deal with this, so forth. So that can also have an impact, just not knowing who you are, and what, like y'all said, the lack of experience. I didn't date many men. Because I went through a lot of things in my childhood. I used to predominantly date women. Then after my child's father, I started dating men. And when I started dating men, I didn't understand what the connection was about. I'm thinking it's supposed to be the same thing, the same way you bond with your friends. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking it's the same thing, the same connection. And once I got to know myself and got to know men, because I had to pry him to be honest with me. What's your point of view? What's your thoughts? How do men see it? How does this make you feel? You know, and once I started understanding men more, I'm like, okay, now I know now I can set expectations. Now I can set boundaries. And I didn't have that experience before. So I feel like because that's something we all said, that it just stood out to me. Lack of experience, lack of knowing yourself. If you don't know who you are, what you like, what calms you down, what makes you happy, then you won't really, you can't really say what you want. You know what I'm saying? I feel like a lot of women don't take accountability when it comes to that, because we get in these relationships and we try to hold the man down, but we don't even know what our deal breakers are. We don't even know what our boundaries are. And there's things that we haven't communicated and we don't realize those are our deal breakers and our boundaries until we fed up. You know what I'm saying? And that's why, like y'all said, communication is 100% important. I feel going back to Ty, when she said there's some things she didn't tell him. I 100% agree with that. There's something she's not saying, and a lot of women do that because they don't want to hurt. They don't want their reputation to be hurt. They don't want people to look at them a certain way. But there was things that she was battling on the inside. Maybe she didn't feel like he was good enough. Maybe she felt like she was too good for him. You know what I'm saying? Now she's doing media. When it came to me and my ex, I'm thinking, okay, this could work, but you don't really have the same common interest as me. You don't want to give back to the community. You don't like, me being on there on social media talking to certain people because you're insecure. You just couldn't deal with me as a person. It's like his idea of a wife was not who I actually wanted to be. You know what I'm saying? Now I got to know myself, and now he's trying to it's just, you got to know yourself. You got to know the gender that you're dealing with, the person that you're dealing with, and you got to be honest. And like she said, you got to communicate. Because if you ain't communicate, I feel like that's why she left. She didn't feel like she could honestly communicate. Like she said, y'all never got into it. After 15 years, how? How? If I'm dealing with somebody that I feel like is my husband, and this is why I tell men when I'm dating them, hey, I'm going to say exactly what comes to my head, and we can find a way to work this out. Because I want you to know what you're getting straight through the door. I ain't coming through no pageant face, and I don't want you to come through pageant face. I don't want to waste no time. Let's get through this. Let's communicate. And it's a way to fight fair. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying, but for you to not have any arguments or disagreements, both of y'all was scared about doing something and saying something, So that's how it is.
Oh, that, man. I think like broadcasting media might be your field, man.
We were also supposed to say amen at the end.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah. Amen. Sorry, I told you I talk a lot.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the time on for you. I'm just messing with you, man. But we can always come back around.
Thank you. That would help a lot. Thank you.
Also, put the time on for you.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I got you. You asked for it, though. All right, go ahead, King. Talk.
I think that it wasn't God. I'm not a very judgy person, but I think that if the only element of that could be God is that God had that message for her and she just finally heard it. Chances are, like you all said, that relationship was not based on a strong communication. A lot of people swallowed their questions and their pride for the betterment of a peaceful union, probably. I do agree to being together. Shit, if you're together more than 2-3 years and y'all ain't never fussed about nothing, you don't have. It's hard to have goals or anything in life that you're passionate about and never have to have a moment where you need to express it with that passion. That's real rare in life. To go years without doing it is a unique occurrence at best. Like I don't know how that happens. I think that she's finally deciding to be more in her purpose, and that could be the aspect of it that's spiritually related. And being in her purpose, she may notice that her purpose and his don't align. But outside of that, or or like infidelities that lead to children and STDs, outside of like those things and DV situations, I really do think like if you can make it with somebody, unless that person's just not growing, right? Because even still water turns to mildew, you know what I'm saying? Like if it's just stagnant and it doesn't move, it just goes bad, right? But outside of just general freaking laziness and things that put your health, your spiritual or physical health at risk, financial health at risk, yeah, a lot more people got to try to stick it out, you know? Got to, because like y'all keep saying, I don't see what's out here that you really think that you jumping out here to go find. I'm not sure what you're thinking of the grass over there. You might really need to sit still and water your lawn. You know what I mean? The grass might look better over there because they really took more time to water it. They took more time to tend to it. Tend to your shit.
All right. Luis, I'm going to ask a question, man. Why do we stay in unhealthy relationships for so long?
Because we're
Why do we stay in unhealthy relationships for so long?
Yes, sir.
I can only speak for myself, but I feel like based on how a lot of us are conditioned, we all gonna come with something.
Hold on, love. I think he was addressing me. But I appreciate your sermon, though. I will say this. Some people just miss the signs. You know, it's like you're going down it's like you're going through the highway of your life, and there are signs that are telling you to get off. And you know, there are certain moments where you kind of see the signs of the inconsistencies, the lack of attention, the lack of effort, the lack of energy, just lack everywhere. And communication being the biggest part. You know, one of the biggest lessons my father always taught me when I was much younger, he always said, Louis, you know, communication is part of love. Without it, we don't have anything. You know what I'm saying? And that's very true because it shows up everywhere. All we do all day is communicate. Every single day, from the moment we wake up to the moment that we go to sleep, right? It's the biggest component. It's the glue in the nucleus that holds our society, our families and communities together. It's that aspect of it. And without it, we become lost. Unfortunately, when it comes to, you know, toxic relationships and them ending the way that they do, is that I think that there was a step in that communication about how people want to be addressed, how people want to have that person show up for them, right? And sometimes that gets lost in translation, and sometimes you need to check in with your person. I'm one of the biggest proponents about people checking in with their person. You know what I'm saying? Life be lifing sometimes. You don't know what's putting behind the scene. And sometimes people are too prideful, too secretive that they'll hold on to something that happened to them during the week, and they won't divulge it until it builds up and builds up until it gets out of control and it starts affecting the relationship in other aspects, right? Checking in with your person should be automatically, and sometimes don't even have to be a meeting or anything. You spend quality time. That's a form of communication and bonding, right? What is bothering you? What has happened? You know, how can I fix it? Do you want me to listen, or do you want me to provide guidance? I think those are the very important keys, especially when people are talking, right? Because especially for men, we're always trying to fix stuff. But at times we don't need to fix. We just need to sit there and be present in the moment with them, right? And listen and hear them out, right? And that's a big component. You know, as far as the video is concerned, you know, I'm curious to know what kind of relationship does she have with God? Was it something that she's had for a long time, or was it something at the tail end? What I sometimes find interesting is that when people get into the thick of things in their life, whether it's hardship, whether it's, you know, a loss of a family member, or whatever that situation may be, the end of their marriage, right? People insert God, but I'm always curious, where did God first presented to you in your life? Was it early in your marriage? Was it young enough, right? It couldn't be just at the end, because if that was the case, who was driving the car the whole time of your relationship, right? And I'm curious to know, does she have a community of women who were married, who were talking to her about, what is she going through, and have a comfort circle about, how to navigate in her marriage when she gets through these rough patches, right? You can't thrive in a marriage without a thriving community who also support your marriage, who also wants to see you both grow, flourish, and love on each other in the good times, bad times, and etc. Because when the good times is good, all we could do is pop champagne bottles and dance to the tune. But when the tough time comes, we all have to, really, really dig in the trenches and be there with one another. Understand, lean on each other emotionally, right? And that's a big component, learning how to sacrifice for one another. Marriage is all about sacrifice and duty. I was going to get to that towards the end, but that's a big component.
Sacrifice and booty.
Sacrifice and duty.
Oh,
Also, that's in there too, but that's 2 chapters later. The other thing that makes me wonder is, like, was that God that was talking to you? Because the devil is also listening all the time, and he's also willing to give you what you want when you call, right? So was it God in the beginning who introduced you to this man, who told you that this man comes from a good family, that he has a God and he's a good quality man? Or who was that introduced this man to you? Because all of a sudden God showed up at the end to tell you that he's not your man. So who was riding in the car the whole time? I'm always curious to know when these things happen. I would say there's a study by the IFS, and it's the Institute for Family Studies, and they looked at, and what the IFS did, they looked at a case study of women who have had multiple partners, right? A high number of partners, and they looked at their ability, their fidelity to stay within the marriage, right? They found that those women had a high divorce rate. And then women who had a threshold of like 5 or less were least likely, to get divorced. And the ones who had 0 to 1 had an extremely higher probability of a successful marriage, right? I understand that the sermon was added in the beginning about, exploring and doing all these things. But what I tend to find is that when women talk about that, it's always in the sort of, taking a trip out somewhere, and dating a bunch of different random men that don't really, come to you in the best of seasons, right? And sort of, I always wonder, what does that look like? Because it certainly isn't going to Bible study or reading or spending quality time reading by the oak tree outside by your backyard and, writing in your books. It always looks like something else. Especially in this climate, it always looks like something else. And we know what that is. And unfortunately, that always shows up in those patterns in your relationship later. Like, not at first, but a tiger never changes his spots. And I find it would behoove me to think that people have done enough of the work before they gotten down the aisle. 15 years is a long time. 7 of it was married. You think about the memories, the bonds, and everything that you created over that time period. I'm gonna land by saying this: fathers, stay in your daughters' lives. I'm gonna say that one more time. Fathers, stay in your daughters' lives. It's very important. You are the first man to show your daughter love and what it is to find someone who has the qualities and the traits that she will one day potentially find in a partner, right? There's a lot of outside influences that, deviate people from what unionship and community looks like each and every day. The grass is not green on the other side, like the Brother King Talk said. The grass is green on the side in which you water and you nurture it every single day. So I yield right there.
All right. Go ahead, Brother Hank.
Yeah, this Ladies, I appreciate your perspectives, but I think y'all are really protecting this woman with what y'all are saying, y'all sharing. Y'all not telling this woman the truth. Y'all not being honest today. Very disappointed, especially you, Todd. Come on now. I expect that from Kelly. You know, Kelly.
Get out of here.
Kelly been known to do that, but Ty. These other ladies I knew, so I really know them. So I'm gonna give you other ladies the benefit of the doubt. So I'm gonna hear you out. Look, let me tell you what was speaking in this woman was that heathenage. That heathenage was in that speaking to that woman. That's what it was. Them streets was calling this heifer, and she was ready to answer. She tried to go to church, get saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Spirit. I'm sure she'd be trying to become Muslim, Catholic, Buddhist, Christian, you know, Israelite. I'm sure she tried all of that. But it wasn't going to appease that heatheness that was deep down in her soul that just needed to be released. And what did she do? She wasted this man's life of 15 years, made that man suffer with her ass for 7 of them because he married the heifer. She's a selfish wench. She doesn't deserve happiness. Everything about this woman is bad, and it's, I'm sick. I'm sick by the sight of her and seeing her. We can't say she's young. Ladies, she's probably about 35. I know y'all think, oh, well, she look young. 30s, in your 30s, you're not young. Emotionally, mentally, you ought to be where you need to be. You ought to be on your purpose when you're in your 30s. You should still be trying to figure it out in your 30s. And if you in your 30s still trying to figure out, you a goddamn loser. Now, if you had to start over, because like this man, he's going to have to start over because she wasted this man 15 years of his life. He was loyal to her, didn't have no fights, didn't cheat on her. Man, there's a lot of beautiful women out here. And he could have got with any one of them, but he chose the wrong one. Now, part of that's on him. He made a bad investment. He made a bad decision. He didn't see the red flag. He didn't see the heathen in her. Let me tell you why. You see them beautiful lips she had on her? That's why he missed it. She looked like she had a nice rack. That's why he missed it. And I'm sure that backside is well put together. Yes. He was enamored by her beauty. That's why he missed the red flag. That's why he didn't pay attention to what was going on between her ears. That's why he didn't realize what nothing up her but sawdust. Because a beautiful woman like that, he was taken back. Now, maybe that was the only beautiful woman he ever had in his goddamn life. Probably the first and last. But let me tell you what's going to happen to this man. In about a year or so, this man's going to be on panels like this, crying about marriage, complaining about he'll never get married again. Because you know why? Because this heifer done poisoned this man. She done tainted this man. She done did this man wrong. So now he's going to be spiteful. He's going to look at these other beautiful black women, and there may be some good ones out there. But he's not going to look at them all. They're going to look at it all the same. The same as his ex-wife is. She wasted this man's life, and she doesn't care not one bit. And the church you went to, maybe you need to find a new church, because I don't know who's your spiritual advisor and didn't talk you out of divorcing this man. Yeah, they did you a disservice. No, let me tell you what they did. The church did what they supposed to do. Keep black women single. And that's exactly what they did. So guess what? They added another number to the congregation, another single black woman. Because guess what? Now she's gonna fall in love with the pastor, who's probably already married with the first lady. But guess what? He got another single woman to add to the choir, to the usher board. Maybe she could be a deaconess. You know what I'm saying? She's gonna be part of the pew. And guess what she's gonna be? She's gonna be giving her 10% every week. Matter of fact, she's gonna go even extra because he's gonna cater to you. He gonna tell you what you want to hear. Like Creflo Dollar. He gonna tell you what you want to hear, and he gonna keep that money flowing. And you gonna get 15%. You ain't gonna get just 10. You gonna get a lower 10. You gonna get 15. And he gonna say, bless your sister. God gonna find your man one day. He lied through his goddamn teeth, knowing he don't want her to find a man, but he gonna keep telling her that God gonna bless you with a man. He can you just hold on. You let God's unchanging hands put him over you. He gonna bless you with a bullshit. You had yours. You fucked it up, baby girl. That's exactly what you did. So now you don't deserve a good man. I hope next man you get, I hope he's a dog ass dude. I hope he dog walk your ass. And I hope he argue with your ass every goddamn day. Because you talk about you had a man. He didn't argue, didn't fight, wasn't no for that. He didn't cheat on me. He was faithful. I mean, what else a man supposed to do? What else is he supposed to do? He doing everything you asking of him to do. But that heathen, that street, you couldn't let it go. You couldn't let it go. And it called you.
Pulpit
Shame.
pimping, pulpit.
Jesus. I can't believe it, Jesus.
That was some pulpit pimping right there, man.
You can't
I would
say
say
that.
this. I have a theory. 15 years together, 7 years married, never fought, never argued, never nothing. Either she is like some divine creature from the other metaverse that we've never seen or heard of, or let's be very honest, she might have had somebody else on the other side who was making sure like she was feeling good every single time, because like there's no way, no arguments, no fight, no disagreements for 15 years. That shit don't even add up.
Yeah.
Lou, it was, and let me tell you who it was. Lou was the associated pastor. It was associated pastor knocking her down. She's supposed to get some spiritual guidance from him, but he's spiritually fulfilling in other ways. I believe it that.
Why did she have to be dealing with anybody else, Louise? Why couldn't it be that maybe he was passive? Maybe he wasn't argumentative. Maybe she did try to start arguments and he never challenged her. That could have been another reason that she left. It was cool with young, but as they got older, those things changed. You know, it didn't have to be that she had somebody on the side, and that's why they never argued.
Ty, let me ask you a question. How many women have you dated in your life?
I've dated 0 women.
Okay. How many women have you dated as a man? Okay. I would tell you this. I will make my submission. Let's be very honest. I love women, but we all understand that they have their moments and they have their needs, and there are moments in the relationship where there are tensions that happen. Good day, bad day, or whatever. What did I speak about earlier about checking in? I spoke about checking in as a form of, there are things that happen behind the scenes that sometimes your partner, there are things that happen behind the scene at times in the relationship that your partner does not divulge. That's why it's brought up checking in, right? And when you don't do that and you don't check in your partner and you don't have those conversations, right? I'm curious what those look like for her. Maybe they didn't have any, because if they did, they would have got a little bit deeper to like what the issue really was, because she was very vague, very vague. You know, I just fell out of it. You know, it was just like how does that happen? And there's like no dots to connect. You know, like there's more than meets the eye. Let's just be honest. I know you want to give a bail, but
I think it's simple.
No, I agree with that. I agree that there's more that meets the eye. I just don't agree with the narrative that you're trying to push, that you had to have someone on the side, and that's why they didn't argue. And I think you saying that you were very disappointed in me, but I started off by saying that she wanted to get back in the streets. I said that. I said they've been together for 15 years, so she hadn't experienced anything. And really, I felt that she wanted to experience things. She wanted to experience something outside of her husband. Is that right? No. Should she have stayed with him? I finished it by saying yes. The streets is trash. You know? So I mean, I agree with you guys. I'm just saying we're trying to create a picture, and like you said, Louise, she was very vague on that. All we know from the facts that was shown to us is that she had an internal issue. It was her. It had nothing to do with her husband. Her husband came and was the best man he could be. She was dealing with something, and that something was FOMO. really. A fear of missing out on whatever she thought was out there for her to miss out on.
I would say
Can I
this.
ask you a
I
question?
think it's a little deeper than that.
Yeah, Adam and Eve is
Can I ask
always
you a
running
question real
30
fast?
to 40% sales, man. She could
Do
always
you feel like that man was a victim?
Yes, I do. I feel like he was a victim. I feel like his time was wasted. I do agree with you on that. He probably, like she stated, if he never cheated on her, he stepped up, he did everything she needed for him to do, for her to just end the marriage and not really have a reason why, other than she felt like God said that he wasn't the right one for her, was devastating to him. And he's going to be broken from that. I do agree with you on that note. He was a victim. She is the villain.
I might have jumped to conclusion. I can admit I was wrong, and I took you away from the dark side. But it looks like you're back in the fold of the dark. Welcome back, Ty. Kelly, I'm gonna resubmit your application, ma'am.
And I also said that with lack of experience, that she possibly craved something that she never had, and that could be the reason why she walked away. It could just be issues from within. And I think that's why some people take their time getting married. Some people need to learn who they are before they just go marrying somebody else trying to get to learn who they are. You know, they need to know who they are first before they try to go be with somebody else. Now, I don't know her full story, but I know there's a full video on YouTube. And from what the comments say, it still says that her story is misleading. So
I don't buy the issues from within thing. I don't buy that. To me, what it seems like is, I think one day she after 15 years, she looked in the mirror and she realized, hey, I look pretty good for my age. And I think there's a society around her that kind of gives her a little bit of reinforcement, says, hey, girl, you look good for your age, And I think that she probably at some point started attracting men that she probably never thought she could attract. Probably guys with maybe more money than her husband, maybe guys better looking than her husband. And I think that once those options lined up for her, I think that's what probably gave her the confidence to say, okay, this relationship can end. I think that it's probably someone in specific. Like, I think usually, like, we know women are hypergamous, and usually women don't walk away from a relationship unless they have something in mind already. Like, unless there's a particular person in mind. So from my perspective, she had that person in mind, and her way through to reason through it was she could say that, oh, it's God. Because I mean, who's going to question that? Like if you say God spoke to you, I mean, it could have been a devil that spoke to you. It could have been anything that spoke to you. It could have been your imagination. It could have been, you could have had a dream. You literally could have just had a thought and decided to say that that was God speaking to you. So it's one of those things that, it puts her in a position where she can't be questioned. Because I can't question God. You can't question God. None of us can question her relationship with God. That now becomes, us overstepping our bounds, us being a little insensitive to her religious situation. So I think, but to me, I think it's an excuse. I think it's just something that she figured, look, I have this out. I can say that God spoke to me. But even like anybody who's religious, biblically, the Bible says, things by the fruit, right? So why would God ever, like, if God is, if you're religious and God is about marriage, why would God ever suggest that you get divorced? There's no circumstance biblically where God has ever said that the person that you are married to is not the person that you should be married to and that you should divorce them. That's never been the case. So it's like, just based off of that, you can tell that this isn't really a spiritually inspired thing. It's a secular, it's a real world inspired thing. She has better options now. She probably has better money than she had when she met her husband. And now she wants to explore them. And I think it's as simple as that.
So when I said she probably craves something else, are we clear on that?
I would agree that she craves something else, but the something else I think is already present. I don't think she's craving like this imaginary something else in her mind that she sought up. No, she's met someone, she's seen someone that she could not have because she was married, and then decided that, what, this person is not the husband I want to have, because the husband I have does not compare to what I've seen, what I've met, what I've smelled, what I've been around. this isn't just something that's internally in her mind. Like no one's just happy for 15 years and then in their mind comes up with an imaginary lover that they compare their partner to, because their partner is the only one that they know. She would have to have met someone else and been like, whoa, that's who I really want. And been like, now my husband is in the way of me exploring this. Or, whoa, these guys is what I'm meeting. Maybe she has a new career, and maybe she's, I don't know what she does, but, a lot of women are in the medical field, and maybe she could have, not been, been in that entry level when she got married. And now she might be a nurse or something at top level. And now she's around doctors, and these doctors are now pulling up in Benzes. They're wearing different cologne. They're wearing different clothes. They eat at different restaurants. And maybe her husband doesn't know about that lifestyle. Maybe he has a business and, he lives a simple life, or maybe he has a high-powered career too, but maybe they've grown into different things. But I'm almost certain that when women move on, it's usually they've seen it. They've seen what they want. They've experienced what they want. They've been around it. It's not just something that happened in her mind.
I can't
So
agree
Kelly,
with.
what do you think she's craving? That's my question. What do you think she's craving? You said she's craving something else. What do you think she's craving?
Something that she never experienced.
Like,
it could be living a single life. It could be living a life with somebody else. It could just be like, I don't know, but it's not him.
I think it's youth.
I feel like that just even for the men, it sound like, and I feel like people do this a lot in relationships, and that's why it's a lack of communication. When people can't understand something or a thought process, they assume that it's not true or that can't be it. And for instance, like, how can I explain it? So men would say, we cheat for this reason, and da, 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 da. Women would come back and say, no, we don't cheat for that. Y'all don't cheat for that reason. We think it's because of da, 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 da. But here as women, they all trying to tell you as a woman, it can be that confusing. It's really that confusing. And I don't like how just because she was the one to speak on it, that the husband is not being held accountable either. If she said they have not argued, that means the husband have not brought up problems he may have had with her, because he probably always trying to take the high road and vice versa. By doing that, there's no uncomfortability in the marriage at all on his part or hers. And in order to grow, what do they say? When there's evolution, there's always chaos before change. They haven't had that part in their marriage. Two, y'all don't even know how the men feel. Y'all don't know how the husband feel. Y'all don't even know if they said they never argue. They probably never argue about the divorce either. Tell the truth. Like, it got to the point where
She said they never argued.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. We can only go from what she's saying. We can't like just put in things based on our past experience on what may have happened. We can of course that's what this is for. This is for us to talk about, but at the same time, when I think about it, it's just not enough information to just paint her as the bad guy. Because if that divorce conversation wasn't hectic, and he obviously didn't fight hard enough either during that divorce to make her think about something like how you felt, like how I feel. 15 years, I'm not giving up on no 15-year marriage, because first off, I'm gonna make sure that's my person before I even marry him. I want to feel like when I marry a man, I want to feel like it ain't nothing you could do that's gonna make me leave you, because at the end of the day, I want to help you grow. I want to help you heal. And as long as you heal, then I know, I see the best version of you. You can be the best version of yourself. And I believe I can have that impact on you. And I think that's what marriage should be about. Can I have an impact on this person? And can this person have an impact on me? Can this person push me to grow and push me out my comfort zone to become a better person? And 15 years of no argument or nothing, they probably shouldn't have been together. They were two people being together, probably doing what's best, not saying what they want to say, like just to avoid arguments. And in reality, they both was left stagnant for 15 years. No arguments, no growing. You said what?
I'm sorry. I'm saying, like, hearing all of you guys' perspective on this, I had like a light bulb go off where I was like, have y'all seen that movie Hall Pass? Anybody seen that movie? So it's like after 15 years, because the subject is communication, right? So yeah, after 15 years, what can't we communicate? Even if I needed a hall pass, if it was somebody else, would I leave this person who I've been in this ride with till the wheels fall off of 15 years, you know, and not even communicate that. Now, how he takes it, I don't know. Because y'all, I'm saying that to say, because the fellas are saying, most of the fellas, not all, but some of the fellas are saying, yo, you got to be somebody else. And the ladies, I kind of feel like Kelly, like, what if it's not just somebody else? What if it's the growth? What if it's, you know, it's something else that it's just not him, right? Like whether it's his work ethic. I don't know what turned her off from him, but something spoke to that she on a talk show enough to speak it, you know what I'm saying, say it, walk through wanting to have a divorce. So it's something strong enough there to pull her away. But at the same time, 15 years down the drain and this person been in a car with me, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's almost like, what can't we talk about? You know what I'm saying? Like, what can we talk about?
The only thing I
So
don't.
if the roles was reversed, do you think a man sit there and said, I was with this woman for 15 years and married 7. Do you think he could just get away with just walk away and not be accused of infidelity? No,
Well,
that's not going to be the case.
Talk to me, because if it is about somebody else, and it's like, hey, baby, I want to see what this like. I just watched Muhammad Ali the other day, and his wife was like, husband, I'm following you. You know, even through his infidelity, she came to the hotel like, tell me what's going on. Okay, and after she let her little anger out, her little spout of frustration, she came back and said, what's next?
Okay, so a man wouldn't get that. A man wouldn't get that same grace you're talking about.
What I'm saying is, I feel like that's what I'm saying on what I just was talking about. She gave him grace. That's what I was talking about.
Well, yeah, well, shout out to Ali and his wife. But I'm talking about this man. If that man, if the roles was reversed of what we was talking about, if that was that man who was going through something, the guy told me I need to leave with this woman. She's not the right woman. He would have been vilified. He'd have been talked about. He ain't no goddamn. I bet he was cheating on that. I bet he got a whole new family 2 blocks away. I'm gonna say this.
Men and women are different. Men do things for a certain reason. Women do things for a certain reason. What y'all do, what y'all do, what y'all do. So,
but Di, you
I'm
made
not
the
saying you
statement.
can't teach her cheating. I feel like that is a great. I think that is a great accusation. I don't think it's just like mind blowing. Like she had to be cheating. No, that's a logical thing for him to think about. It's like, well, what was you doing for these past 7 years? You know what I'm saying? I don't think it's not. I don't think it's just that, but it's just like it seemed like that's the only thing y'all were saying, like, oh, it had to be another man. Y'all not thinking outside the box, like what could have it had been, because it's not always just another man. So we as women is trying to give y'all different perspectives that it's more than cheating when it comes to us as women. You know what I'm saying? For me, with that guy, I didn't never cheat on him ever. The whole 6 years, it just came down to it when I realized he's not for me. And it was my lack of experience with a dad, with men, with brothers, with sisters. I can admit that. It was my lack of experience. Even from hearing you talk, Hank, when I heard you talk and the way you speak with passion, your spiritualness, I never really heard that from a man before. And usually I would take that like, oh, offensive, like he's attacking me, but it's not. You're passionate about this situation. You know things that I don't know about men. You know what I'm saying? It's nice to see that passion. But that's what I said. It's just we as women, y'all kind of have to put yourself in our shoes the same way we have to put ourselves in yours. And that's why communication is important. You have to communicate to me how you feel, why you think the way you think. Then I have to take myself out of my shoes and put myself in your shoes. And I can't be like, oh, that's illogical, because as a woman, that's something I wouldn't do. No, if you say this is how men think and this is how men act and this is how they respond to things, I can't be like, oh, well, they shouldn't respond like that. If all men are saying this is how we act and respond to things, although I can't relate as a woman, I have to take your word for it, put myself in your shoes and react the same way and perceive things the way you perceve them. And they didn't do that anymore.
I got you, ma'am. I got you. I know what you're saying.
Oh, let me just give y'all
I agree with you. I agree with what you're saying, but this is where I disagree. A man should never put himself in a woman's shoes. We cannot relate to how y'all think, operate, move. Now, what we can do is make sure we have empathy. That's what we can do. I can't put myself in your shoes. I won't, because I don't think and move off emotions.
That's what
I don't do like
that. That's what empathy is.
in that move no more. So I will not. And a man shouldn't operate and try to get in a woman. No, we need to have empathy for the person who we're talking about, who we're dating, who we're married to. Now that's the difference. I can have empathy for you and feel that for you. But I will never be in your shoes and try to put myself in your shoes. Don't try to put yourself in our shoes. You can't relate. You can't understand. I don't care if you think you can walk down the aisle. You won't. It won't be the same. Don't try it. You're wasting your time. But let me answer this. Di, you sit there and say you feel like that woman, how she knows she's not a victim. No, the guy's a victim, man. Because first of all, you married this dude. And what party did you start having in these 15 years that you didn't have this? So you said you was married to her for 7. So them 8 years prior to you marrying this man, you didn't have those ill feelings. You didn't have those withdrawals or those, I don't think he's the one. Instead, you even went to the point where this man came with a ring, presented it to you. You said, I do. But in the back of your mind, you knew you had these feelings, but yet you took this man's engagement. You took this man's last name, and yet you still probably did not say that. It wasn't till probably your last 2 years of the relationship is when you said, I guess I need to tell him. So the hell with them other 13. It's all about what I wanted. As long as he was making you happy and doing everything for you, it was all good. But as soon as you hit that spot where, I'm going to move differently, I'm grow, that's some bullshit. So that man was the victim. She's not a victim. She's not a victim at all. That man was a victim. He's the one suffering. He's the one had to deal with the embarrassment of why his relationship didn't work, his marriage didn't work. They're going to fault him. They're not going to fault her. They're going to say, oh, girl, you go, girl. Let me tell you what's going to end up happening. Mm-hmm. One of the girlfriends on the outside going to sit there and say, shit, Tanya, she dead wrong. What was she thinking about? I'm going to go get with him because they never fought. He provided. He didn't cheat. He was loyal all 15 years. But this woman was a fool for leaving this man. Shit, I'm going to go hustling. And that's what you're going to see at the high school reunion. They're going to be together, married, together, happy. She going to be up her by herself trying to find somebody who can't be nowhere close to what that dude was. She going to miss it. You don't miss a good thing.
I agree with you on that. And I feel like a lot of women and men do that. Women will sit here and pick a man who will provide. Like, for instance, I had an ex. I was with him for years. My mom said, oh, you just breaking up with him because you want to date women. No, I realized that this man he started to provide for me. He started to take care of me. He wants to know more about my daughter. He wants to know more about my family. But I'm like, I just don't like him like that. Like, don't get me wrong, he's doing all the good things, but just because you're doing good things don't mean we have that bond and that connection. Same thing as a woman. A guy would date a woman for all these years because she's doing what he says, but in reality, they don't actually have an actual bond. You know what I'm saying? And I agree with that. She shouldn't have married him, and I do feel like that could have been the case. She married him because she had a checklist. And she said he hit this, that. But that checklist just wasn't it. She didn't know herself. She thought that checklist would make her happy. And then she tried to force it. Like, oh, this is the person people said I should marry. This is the person people said I should be with. They said when a man like this, he is deserving of a marriage. You know what I'm saying? So she probably tried to force it and make it work. That's the only other way I can, like, and I'm not saying she ain't wrong, but I'm saying I'm always playing devil's advocate. So.
Okay, hold on, y'all. Hold on. Hold on. Wait. Let's get some people who haven't spoke. Let's get B-Range in there. Let's get King talking there. Let's check with the other folks. Clout, you haven't spoke either. So let's make sure we share the mic. I'm gonna put the timer up so that we stand on task because people are patiently waiting. They do have things that they want to say. So I'm gonna put the timer up. Please respect the timer. Go ahead, B-Range.
Okay. I think some good points have been made, but one thing I noticed when I talk to a lot of my female friends is that a lot of us aren't taught how to date. A lot of us aren't considering, or maybe we have an ideal of what a marriage should be or what our spouse or partner should be in our own minds. But what that man has may be different, even though he might have all the qualities, provider, etc. That one possesses, like you kind of stated, Di. He's got everything on my checklist, but still in my mind, there's something that he's not giving me. So therefore, I'm not happy. And we sometimes stick within situations because we feel like, maybe we've been with this person for so long, or there isn't really a conflict. There's really nothing wrong with this person, but I just don't like this guy. But at that point, one has to be responsible, an adult and mature to say, hey, this is not the person for me. Now, hopefully that doesn't take 15 years worth of time. And that's why you're supposed to date and go through seasons of good, of bad, of ups and downs, of different emotional levels with the person to understand what they're truly like, to make the determination as to whether or not this is a good partner for me. And if not, you need to leave that person alone. I think from the part of the clip I did notice before I got cut off was that she did make an effort. She was there for quite some while, became complacent, but then just realized that this is really not for me. And like I said, that should not take 15 years. I think a little more vetting is needed up front and for both parties, because I can't imagine that the man wasn't feeling some type of way, because energies are reciprocated. And at the end of the day, if she's not happy, that would have bled over into some dynamic of their relationship. So,
all right, go ahead, King, talk.
All right, so I will say this. They probably didn't grow at the same pace. There's probably some work that both sides needed to do. When a guy's leading in a relationship, his seeing things from the woman's perspective, placing himself in her shoes, is literally the definition of empathy. So we're nearly not that far off on what is required. You're supposed to be a leader that leads with compassion and leads. If you're a spiritually based relationship, you put the higher God first, and you lead with the direction that comes from that higher source, and then you're all following in the same path, right? And when you go about it in that way, you tend to place a higher focus on being on the same page. It seems like they got chapters apart early in the relationship, and nobody took the time to do the extra reading to get back on the same page. Sometimes what that looks like is communications have ceased, sex becomes monotonous, the gap becomes bigger, and sometimes just the smallest bridge seems to be a breath of fresh air, right? And in these situations, what will most likely happen is that she'll regret the decision, because there really isn't anything better out there. Everyone is dealing with some level of trauma. Everyone is the disappointment, right? Your average human being has been shitted on by someone. And we're in this weird space where everyone spends entirely too much goddamn time trying to figure out who has it worse. That pity party is not bringing us any closer. It really isn't. What might be too much for Hank might not be too much for Jay, might not be too much for Luis, may not be too much for me. What's too much for this young lady, or any one of these young ladies, may not be too much for the other. The comparison is a waste of time. When a person is telling you that they're dealing with too much, they're saying what's too much for them. So we just got to figure it out. That's where the compassion and the empathy comes from. Select someone that's worth figuring it out. That's the empowering part that gives us hope.
All right, King Talk, that time up. King Talk, I ain't trying to cut you off, man. I just want to be respectful and fair. Everybody, go ahead, Clout.
I think that part of the problem with marriage today is, I forget who said it, but it does have a lot to do with people idealizing marriage and not really taking time to get to know people and date people. I think a lot of times people use marriage as like a way to force the connection that Di was talking about. Like Di was saying, how a person can be doing all the right things, but we just don't have that connection. And connection is something that's very, like, unfortunately, connection is something that can be fleeting. Like a connection, you can have a really strong connection that lasts a week. Connections are coming and going. And a lot of times when people sense that the connection is going, what they try to do is they try to bottle up and be like, well, let's turn it into something. Because by turning it into this something now, it'll be this ideal connection that I'm imagining in my mind. And I don't think people realize that sometimes that's actually what's destroying their relationship, because it's not allowing it to grow and build into whatever it would naturally be. I almost feel sometimes like if you feel like to stay with someone, y'all have to get married, then that's definitely not the person you should be with. Because I think that the connection should be so solid that it doesn't matter, honestly. I think that whether we right here, whether whether we get married, whether we in a 1-bedroom apartment, whether we in a house, we still choosing each other. I feel like that's the epitome of any relationship. And I feel like that's what people should be looking for. They should be looking for that relationship that they're willing. Like, I think people should be looking for love. And a lot of times love and marriage doesn't really coincide. Marriage has a lot more outside things affecting it, but my time's up, so I'm gonna let somebody else go.
Yeah. I'm gonna say something real quick before we flip the chapter page. Just to kind of go back to what you say, Raimi, about Ali. That's a great example. But however, Ali was an exceptional man. He wasn't a regular man, an above average man. He was an exceptional man. So for her to follow him is because she understood the inherent value that he possessed and the amount of people around the world globally, as much as they love to hate him, he had a huge impact on everything he moved. So she knew she was with an exceptional man, a once in a generation type of man. And lo and behold, to this day, we still talk about him, we still praise about him, regardless of how things transpire. Um, I don't think that women. I'm getting a mean feedback from you, Clout. Yeah, everybody got to mute up in between. I don't think that, honestly, hearing that woman out, I don't think that she was looking for a husband, or a leader, or even a provider. I don't even think any of those things even came up in her lexicon while she was, doing the interview. I'll be honest with you. I think the more I sit back and listen to a lot of these women who are in these type of relationships or these types of dynamics, and they end over frivolous things, and they talk about communication, like, which is the title of this entire show, right? For it to get to that point and not check on each other, no understanding of where things might lie, or even get off or end this marriage or relationship even before we got to this 15-year mark. What has come to me is that, and I'm gonna blow up YouTube right now, a lot of women want submissive providers. That's what it sounds like. A lot of these women want submissive providers, right? It's a dude who covers everything, does everything, and she does whatever she wants, still operates like she's single, still thinks like she's single, and he doesn't really have no input. She wants all the benefits that come with the relationship, in the marriage, in the dynamic, but still operate in her singleness. Because everything you heard in that interview was a woman who was operating from a single mindset. I yield.
All right, go ahead, Raimi.
I think I'm still digesting the second half, honestly, what you said, just because, like, operating in a single mindset, like, she dedicated 15 years. So I just want to, I guess, understand that better. But I do want to, the first part of what you said with Ali, I mean, I would assume because she married, her husband, she married a man. She chose to marry a man. One single drop can make a bunch of ripples. So yes, Ali affected people across the world, but we don't know who this man that she married has affected in his family and expanded his community and expanded. We don't know these things. So maybe she trusted her mission. Everybody can't be Ali White. However, that doesn't mean I don't see a mission with this man or his purpose or a greater vision for an hour or whatever. So, I mean, but I do want to know what you meant by, like, somebody moving in a single space, because he didn't just put 15 years in, she put 15 years in. So what you mean?
It was more about how she spoke about it, right? It was more like she was already checked out of the relationship. Let's be very honest. She spoke and carried a spirit about her that she already had checked out. She had checked out. She didn't say when, or that wasn't divulged, but however, she was mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and sexually checked out, right? Long before. She's not going to say when that happened. Obviously, she was very vague, but however, she was not present. She was already operating as a woman who's single. Although you might be married on paper, she is still operating from a single woman's mindset. And that was the mind frame in the interview that I took away when she said that.
Yo, you're on mute. You're on mute. Hold on. Go ahead.
I love that you said that because excuse me, unmuting my mic kind of threw me off for a second. But no, I love that you said that because yeah, that speaks to communication anyway with men and women in the first place. I think a lot of people, especially so many people having conversations across the world about gender roles and what's supposed to be defined by the man and the woman, you know, where boundaries lie with this person, you know, gender, all that. But I, you know, if I'm speaking from my perspective and my study and my understanding is going to be that, you know, men are physically stronger than us, right? Like in this 3D, what we can touch, men are physically stronger than women, just in general, right? That women, I believe their role a lot of times has to do with spiritual covering. And I feel like there have been texts and things that have thrown us off from that type of balance with one another. And it's, I mean, a lot of this lately, especially with like the pandemics and stuff, everybody has been forced to go, you know, in their choices or in their life, in their own skin and figure out a balance within themselves. But I'm talking about in communication with another person. I don't think that it was, maybe she, to your point, she checked out because she probably already knew that, you know what I'm saying? Something turned her off. Women are typically inclined to, you know, be drawn to a man by like mental stimulation first. A lot of times it can be physical. Men are physical. That's why you was Hink, you talking about she had this rack on her in the back. We don't even, you know what I'm saying? You was given the things that would make you stay or someone be attracted, made her a woman of value in that way. That's, you know, you're physically, I mean, you're, you know, visually attracted. Attracted women typically, we are turned on mentally first. So yes, that was attracted me first. I looked at you, I felt you, your energy, whatever, it turned me up. Fast forward, I knew when it was over. You know what I'm saying? I knew, okay, I'm and it, honestly, it chips away. You know what I'm saying? With women, it's not just one big blow up unless it's disrespectful. Respectfully to the time.
Hold on, let me introduce this another video about communication.
Wife that wants her emotional needs met by her husband. And then I added on to that, who is exhausted from work and providing and not meeting her needs.
You versus I statements is where my mind went to.
That's where mine went to. As soon as she said it earlier, I was like, this needs to be a discussion.
So you versus I statements, and that falls into the you always, you never, and turning it into I feel overwhelmed when the household looks a mess. Can you help me with that? That turns it from you never help me around the house. I can't believe you're like this. And that removes the blame. It removes the accusation of laziness or not contributing. And men by nature are fixers.
Yeah.
When I tell my husband, babe, I'm overwhelmed, I'm overstimulated, he immediately goes, what can I do to make it better for you?
I find a phone booth and come out like Superman.
Yeah.
Because it gives me the opportunity to serve my wife, lead my household, and be the protector, the provider, and like I'm the superhero in the moment. That comes down to articulating what you need,
right,
and not throwing shade at your person. You hear people say you work too much. It's not that they work too much, it's that they're missed. You're not home very often. I miss the times that we had. I miss the conversations. So instead of going, you work too much and you're never here, babe, I miss you. Can we start doing date nights? Can we start watching our TV shows on Wednesdays? Can we start going to church again or whatever it is that we need to do to reconnect? That is very different than you work too much.
Right.
So when you learn to articulate what you need versus throwing shade and making, like she said, accusations, you're going to get a very different outcome.
All right. Who wants to go ahead and respond? Go ahead, Paul.
I thought that was a really great perspective. I think a lot of people, when it comes to communicating, especially through frustration, we tend to communicate how we feel in that moment instead of what led us to that feeling. So like he stated, you work too much is how I feel in that moment. But the reason why I'm upset that you work so much is because it's taking away time from me. I just had a conversation with my friends, which is funny because she's been with her man for 13 years. They just got engaged. And she called me venting about how he spends so much time going off and doing this one thing that he likes to do to release stress. Now, he's always done this, but she's like, it's so frustrating. He's not spending time with me. I'm just going to tell him he needs to stop doing that. And I literally told her, instead of saying that, why don't you let him know that you feel like your time with him is being, hindered because of this action? How about, I want to spend a little bit more time with you? I think we have to learn how to take the emotion out of it. And I'm specifically speaking to women because I can only speak from a woman's perspective. We tend to speak through anger, through our emotions, instead of trying to think about what we're going to say to our men to get them to understand, comprehend, and actually take in our message. So we have to calm ourselves down first and decide that we're going to address this situation in a way and in a manner in which he can actually receive what we're saying. So what they were stating and how they were stating it is amazing. I feel like so many more people need to learn to communicate like that. And the only way we can do that is by checking our own emotions and actually finding the root of why we feel that way. You're just not upset because I'm always gone. You're upset because you miss me, because you like my attention. You like me around. And that sounds so much better than you in these streets all the time,
All right. Who wants to go next?
I'll speak on it. Ladies, most of the time, y'all are good communicators. Y'all know how to talk. I mean, y'all got the words. Y'all know how to speak it. Y'all know what to say. But where y'all lack is listening. Y'all not good listeners. Now, men, we're great listeners. We listen. We don't communicate well. We don't say what we really feel sometimes like we should. And I feel like, men, we needed to do a better job. Even though it may hurt sometimes when that truth you tell them, let it be known. Just figure out how to say it in a loving and kind way. That's what I was told. Tone and delivery. Kelly and Ty, y'all remember that, tone and delivery. I told you I'm not practicing that on y'all. But my wife, she could get that. But part of that communication needs to be able to listen to a man. So when a man is just got everything you just unloaded on him, everything you just sit there and said, you got to be willing to open that two-way street up so you be willing to listen so he can respond to what you just shared. Because if not, you just making us a goddamn sounding board. You just want to vent. Now, if you just want to vent, you need to tell us, baby, I just want to vent. I just want to get some shit up off my chest. And then guess what? We're not looking to answer any questions unless you ask us one directly. We just going to sit there and just pay attention. Stare you in the eye. Probably look at you like you crazy. But we're going to listen to you. We're not going to say a goddamn word because that's all you want is just a vent. Cool. But please believe, when we have our moments, when we need to get some shit up off our chest, you got to be willing and open to do it. It's a two-way street. And then it's not fair. It's not okay. And guess what? The man's going to eventually, if you don't feel like he can communicate with you, he's going to stop communicating altogether. And now that's a different problem.
So back to the video. Articulation is key. I believe that. I definitely believe it's not what you say, it's how you say it, tone, delivery, all those things. But with communication, a lot of times it's not so much communication, it's comprehension. Some people do not comprehend well. So as far as communication being a lost art, it is because some people don't even know the art of communication. Like, we say all these things, it's about listening, it's about this, it's about that, but are you really taking the time to learn the art of those things? Some people really don't know how to communicate. They just don't. I mean, I'm sure everybody on this panel has experienced someone who they just couldn't hold a real conversation with, or that they had some type of combative relationship at some point. Like, it's just not something that we all learn. Just like, what's your name? Nee? You mentioned how we weren't taught to date. Some people weren't taught to communicate. And that's just the bottom line. So you have to take a real interest in communicating to get your points across to some people. You have to know who you're dealing with. And Nee, you also mentioned how it doesn't take a long time to get to know a person. It shouldn't take 15 years or 6 years or whatever the case may be. Those are things that you learn in the very beginning when you're dealing with someone. I know another thing we talked about was, why do people stay in toxic relationships? Because people, they don't want to start over. They want to keep the faith, thinking that this person is going to get better. And they show you the red flags day one, week one. But women stick it out. Men do too, but not, I don't know. Like, man, you all can speak on that. Do you stick it out when you realize that you don't have the best relationship with this person? Or, you know, you see the red flags, it's not going anywhere. I don't think men do it as much as women do. But that's for a man to speak on, not me. So someone should speak up. Clout, you seem like you have something to say.
You're muted, Clout.
Oh. Yeah, I wanted to speak more on what you had said earlier, about how like people weren't taught how to date, people weren't taught how to communicate. And I think one thing a lot of time we overlook is like the education system in general. Like, the whole purpose of the education system is to get people to a standard of communication, a standard of comprehension, a standard of socialization, so that we can all understand each other and have healthy relationships. And like, really, a lot of people just are just uneducated from the standpoint of like the system has failed them. Like, they get through school without really knowing how to read. A lot of these kids now can't read. If they can't read, they can't comprehend. And a lot of times you'll find that you have conversations with people where when they can't read or comprehend, what happens is when they hear certain words, their emotions flare up because they don't know what the word means. You could be complimenting them and they think you're insulting them. You could be trying to ask a question and they think you're trying to beat down their point because they really just don't have the communication skills necessary. And I think that that's really where that problem is stemming from. We really got to look at education and find a way to really get people today back to the standard of education that, like, I think a lot of our generation grew up, because I'm 36 and a lot of my peers, or at least the generation before me, they could read well. They understand words. They can, you know, they understand vocabulary. And it's like these kids now, and a lot of these millennials, they don't get it. Like, they really just do not have the skills necessary. And it's the education system. I don't know how a lot of them even make it into college, because even on college campuses, they just do not even have the ability to debate. So we have to address that as a whole in society.
Ooh, that's a really good point.
I wouldn't contribute it to the school system entirely, because I feel like parents have a duty to teach their children as well. I went to great schools, but my mom and my father taught me a lot as well. Things that you just don't always pick up in school, even throughout, you know, adulthood. You know, you just learn things that the school is not going to teach you. So it's not all on the school system, but that does contribute.
I agree with you. And to add to what you were saying, when I was younger, I feel as though, from my memory, all of the parents were adults. Like there was a clear, like, the parents would show up to pick up their kids in like button up shirts and like ties, and like the mom, you know, they looked like they just came from work, and they were clearly like, oh, these are grown adults. These are people in like their late 20s, 30s, you know.
Mm-hmm.
The parents now, well, like, there's a school right by my house, and when I drive by, there's times where you can't even tell the difference between the parents and the kids. Like, I'm talking, they dress the same, they got the same hairstyles, like the parents are kids. A lot of these parents have no high school education, and they got 6 kids, so it's like they never even learned these skills, so they can't even pass them down to their children. And then it's a generational thing. You got kids raising kids, and then they're raising kids, and no one in the family has an education level up to the standard, especially in our community. They don't have an education level up to the standard, like the basics to function in society.
That's what I was going to kind of piggyback on and speak to. Like, what's your background? What was your family dynamic that you grew up in? Did you have a 2-parent household? Did you have a single mother? What activities, if you had a single mother, was she up to? What did you see as a child? How did you see her interact with men and with relationships? Was it abusive?
Yes.
Things take a toll on to how people communicate with each other in any dynamic of life. And I think that we need to take that in consideration as we're vetting out partners, to see their background. That's one thing you should be asking. You know, what's your family dynamic like? You will have a different result. There are men with mother wounds who have disorders. They throw around the word narcissists, womenizers, abusers. There are women with daddy wounds who are hoes, who are promiscuous. So if these people are interacting, they're grown, they're adults physically, but mentally they're children, because they haven't been in the proper dynamics to experience life and to be able to make proper decisions, educated decisions, because they don't know any better.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. People are not having those conversations early. They're not.
Well,
And I do feel
I
like
know
that's
one
the
thing.
reason.
Go ahead, Don.
I was just gonna say that's the main reason why our community is the way it is, because I know when it came down to, so I wrote a couple things down. So, like for instance, when you communicate, you have to be able to adapt to people's learning styles. Everybody learns and communicate differently, and I think when I help a lot of people, when I first begin to talk, um, like they said, they say you, and I learned to not to get defenses off that, because I realized, okay, they don't know how to communicate. It's not really me, but they're just trying to express how I made them feel. So I go past the you and look straight to towards the feeling. And if you look, when you're trying to do, that's just basic psychology. When you're having an argument with someone, you're trying to get to a common ground. You don't want to go into the argument, you. You want to say, I feel like this, because it won't put that person on the defense. But spirituality is definitely important when it comes to communication and making this community better, because like you said, we don't know their past. So you could be telling somebody, oh, I need you to do this, that. And they're like, you trying to tell me what to do? You trying to say I don't know how? And once you realize that they're that type of person, now you have to switch up your communication style. Now, instead of me saying this is what you need to do, before I tell you what you need to do, I'm gonna give you a situation on where I did it too. Because if I'm telling you this is what you need to do, one thing about me, I'm not gonna give you advice about something I don't know nothing about. So that's why when it came down to the marriage talk, I can't really give you too much advice, because I'm still looking for that experience. I'm still waiting to build that a bond with a man, so where he can be honestly communicating what he's feeling from my actions. Like the one of the guys, he was talking about how it's important when a guy is taking care of you, that when they say, oh, I don't want you to wear this or go here or go there, I want to know, why is that important to you? Why is that so important for you to have that opinion on my life? Because if I don't understand why that's important to you, to me, now I think you're trying to control me based on my personal experience. You know what I'm trying to say? So yeah, that's just kind of like what I want to say, that how spirituality is definitely just being in tune with yourself, because when that communication breakdown happens, you won't take it personal. You'll realize, okay, this isn't me. It could be them. And how can I adjust to them to get my point across? And a lot of people in our community, they don't do that. They're just like, oh, they're wild, they're this and they're that. But that's why you're in contact with this person, so you can make a difference.
I know. All right. I
Yeah,
did
my
want to
buddy died. My buddy died. She said, "Fuck that timer, JR. Hey, that timer don't mean shit to her."
Make it a little
God
longer.
damn. Talk your shit, man. No, but
2 minutes.
one thing I definitely try to encourage men is to interrogate women. If you're going to interact and make a commitment and get a relationship, interrogate them. And don't be afraid of their answers. Do not be afraid that you're going, oh, I don't want to scare away. I don't want to miss my opportunity to get some ass. Bullshit. If you miss it, miss it. It wasn't meant for you to be with her anyway. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't date a woman who doesn't have a father or a father figure in her life. Do not date those type women because you're not going to like the outcome. Because if she doesn't have a father or a father figure in her life, she doesn't know how to act, respond, or treat, and carry herself as a lady, having some type of authority over a man. If you can't handle a woman like that, don't deal with it. I don't care how beautiful she is, how well put together she is, or how smart you think she is, or how well she cooks. It means nothing if she has no respect for you. Or when you have something and you say something to her and she look at you like you 10 karat crazy, don't you tell me what to do. You ain't my daddy. You damn right. Your daddy wasn't your daddy either. But I'm trying to help your black ass. But you don't want to listen. Let that heifer be.
All right. Let me introduce another video right quick. Yeah.
Regards to my husband saying that the house is supposed to be the sanctuary, our house is my husband's kingdom. You are not staying here. Sorry, you can get a hotel room or you can't come visit. If you act up in our household, it is not above me. You want to see me as a see you next Tuesday? I would prefer that because you're not going to disrupt the energy of my home for my man.
I love that. I love that.
House is hers, though. That's her domain. I don't do anything in there. And like I have my whiskey room.
You do.
That's mine. And I have my little work area, but the house is hers. If she's like, I want to do, I'm like, do it. This is your domain. You make sure that I have the peace. I've provided you the house. You've made it a home. Like I don't have to worry about any of this. And she doesn't have to worry. Like she doesn't know her car payment. She doesn't know how much car payment is. I handle all of that. We don't have. What do you want for dinner? We don't do that either. I'm going to eat whatever she makes, even if I don't like it, because she cooked it. Like there's a gratitude that comes into all of this, and it makes it so that I don't have to make decisions.
Right.
She doesn't have to make decisions. That's where that 50-50 comes in. She handles half of our life and I handle the other half. But the combined living situation is whoever's got the energy to get it done.
You guys feel
I can't agree with that second part of the video, man. Now, the first part I agree with. That second part, I can't agree with that shit. What are you talking about? You gonna eat the food even if you don't like it? Bullshit. What happened to that communication? You need to open his goddamn mouth and say something, baby. I appreciate you cooking. I appreciate the hard work you did in that kitchen. But this tastes like ass. We can't eat this no more. This got to be the last day we eat this nasty ass lasagna. Fellas, we can't just sit there. That's what I'm talking about. You have to open. I understand it may hurt her feelings. Rather you tell the truth and be honest with her than you sit back there and suffer in silence. Bullshit. No man should have to do that. No woman should have to do that. I'm not going to do that. Baby, this tastes like ass. We can't eat. We can't cook this no more. We trying something different. Maybe it's an ingredient you missing, but we can't cook this no more. You have to communicate and be okay with it and accept whatever consequences come with it. If she gets mad, let her get mad. Talk to her about it, baby. I understand, but it just didn't taste right. It was just something about it. Is what let's try something different. It's all about how you say it. I left that extra time for Di because I know my buddy Di gonna need that extra minute. So Di, if you're gonna get 3 minutes, I'm blessing you.
Honestly, I feel like everything he said, I didn't really have nothing I really disagree with. You do have to pick and choose your battles on the days. I do feel like yeah, that's just pretty much it. You just got to communicate. And I like how he said, if it's a hard day for her, we just going to split the role. It's just what's comfortable for you and your family. And how she said she's not going to let anyone disrupt her husband peace in the household. I feel like all that's the way it's supposed to be. And that's how you know they communicate. And that's why, like you said, if you don't like the food, you need to speak up and you need to say that. But just like a lot of how they say a lot of fathers don't do their role in the black community, I feel like a lot of women don't do theirs either. There's a lot of women out here with a lot of good information and could help a lot of men and just people in general heal. But because that person comes with trauma and things like that, they don't want to help. And y'all wonder, well, everyone wonders why the community is still the same way it is. If God tell me and this is one thing I can say, the way I feel that God speaks to me, if I'm in a relationship and I'm dealing with a guy, he's treating me wrong and he's doing this and he's doing that. In my head, because I'm very confident in my worth, if he's fumbling the bag, it's something wrong with him. So what's wrong with you, baby? You know what I'm saying? Especially how he's fumbling the bag. I want to figure out, and even if you choose not to be with me at the end of the day, you're going to learn to have that respect for me. You know what I'm saying? I'm willing to take on, even if you're not going to be my husband, but I'm going to pray on it. And if I pray and God say, well, go try this, try this. When I run out of ideas, that's when I feel like God, he doing what he want to do at this point. You know what I'm saying? But I do feel like, yeah, you do have to, you do have, I feel like people who are healed in our community have to be a little bit more humble. We're privileged. And I feel like the community won't change if we don't have a little bit of patience, like with the people that we attract. And yeah, pray on your relationship. And if you in tune with yourself and God, you'll know if you there for a season or a reason. And you ain't gonna take what's going on personal, because you're gonna realize I'm doing my job as a woman. We're spiritual healers. I think what, like back to what she said, men are physically better. But once you understand your job as a woman, a spiritual healer, it doesn't always feel good. It don't. But once you learn how to transform energy, take that energy. Yes, I could feel your anger. Now I'm gonna transform it into love, because that's what I'm here to do. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna teach you how to communicate. Okay, like for instance, me and my guy, I came downstairs one day and I said, my ex guy, I said, I'm gonna start having you help me clean up upstairs because I'm getting tired. But I said it just like that. What you mean you get tired? I always do stuff. You saying I ain't do nothing? Listen to what I said, baby. It got to the point where I'm not mad yet. I'm like, okay, cool. He yelling at me. He thinking I'm going at him. Hold on, let me calm you down. Let's go back up what I said and how I said it. Look at my choice of words. He said some goofy. Oh, now I have to really, like, I had to teach myself to really calm down. I'm not a goofy, but because there's a lack of communication, he feel like, so yeah, that's all I have to say. I
That's
just took my extra minute because he gave it to me,
not all good. No,
Thank you, Hank.
That's right. That's right. Talk your shit.
That's just it. I just feel like women have to teach men that. And when they get in a relationship and they're not being challenged, it's like, well, your man is obviously dealing with something. Men are silent, so you gotta kind of pry a little bit. He can't,
you got
he's telling men to just communicate, but sometimes
Mhm.
women, you have to pry. You have to push
Yeah.
him to communicate because he don't know how.
Go ahead, Raimi. So you trying to get in there? You on mute, just so you know.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to note that I have this written down and quoted from Lewis's dad. Communication is a part of love. If you don't have it, you don't have anything. But I think the big thing about it is comprehension. It's comprehension. Like, am I with this person? Why did I attract this person? It's something there, because out of all the billions of people you could be around, I'm here with you. What is this teaching me? I feel like if everybody, whether your role is physical, spiritual, everybody should take a minute to like think. I think sometimes we just speedball through things, like, but everything is so, we can speedball. Life happens, right? I don't mean that we can just slow walk everything, but when we have the opportunity to really sit and digest why something has happened, what feeling you having, like you're saying, a way to communicate it, but comprehension is the biggest. I think that's the biggest thing. That's all I gotta say.
Okay.
So I don't disagree with you. I think you're onto something. Comprehension is a big component, but to kind of really comprehend your person, I think you have to be well in tune with them, right? It's not so much you're communicating and talking about stuff, man. Because honestly, you could talk about anything, from movies to sports to whatever. But I think it's more of ensuring that they effectively pick up the message in what you're sharing, right? Especially when you're talking about the most deepest, most intimate parts of you, your experience, your upbringing, your shortcomings, your traumas, right? Where your triggers lie, right? That's another part too. I might say something that might make you feel a certain type of way that I did not know, that in that moment I just realized, oh, me saying this or bringing this up triggers her. Okay, noted. But instead, some people who are not in tune with their person, they'll keep pressing that button, pressing that button, not realizing what they're doing. And although they must subconsciously be thinking that they're trying to communicate something, unfortunately, what they're doing is keep running into that dead end wall and triggering that person. And now you have two people who are at odds with each other, who are at odds with each other simply because there is a bridge of effective communication in their comprehension, right? He is not picking up on the fact that she does not like that. And she's also in her feelings at that moment. And so she might not be able to convey that to him. And there's a missed opportunity on both ends. One for the lesson, the other two for the ability to extend grace and make sure that they comprehend exactly what is wrong at that particular moment and not let that build up and fester. Yeah.
All right, let me just play this right quick and then I'll get somebody else.
Sometimes you will have a conversation with somebody and the things that you hear and what they say is absolutely not the same thing.
It's so different. Yeah.
Have you caught that on recording yet?
My husband did. And it was embarrassing to listen to because I'm speaking out of straight trauma. Like it's not what he said, but it's insecurities and within me that I'm hearing.
We had that on an episode where after the episode I was fuming angry, and when I went back to edit it I started crying and was like, I'm so sorry. Like, this is not at all how I perceive this moment because it's on film. I know your tone wasn't there, your facial features wasn't there. Everything that I was taking in the moment wasn't real. Wow. I was having a full-blown episode during an episode, and we ended up posting it. Yeah. And unless I was to give you the number, you would have no idea that that was even a thing. But I was fuming angry afterwards because I thought that she was being very condescending and shitty towards me, and it wasn't at all the case.
Wow.
So that borderline thing could be very real, and that comes into being able to switch from an emotional process to a logical process and thinking and asking probing questions and being able to communicate properly. So,
man.
And for your listeners, we both have BPD.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's a lot to navigate, and a lot of our disruptions boil down to, well, none of that was real.
Yeah.
We talk about what we felt in the moment, what triggered it in the moment, and how we can prevent it in the future.
Yeah.
Can I ask you guys a quick question before anybody goes? How many of you go back after these panels and watch the discussion that we had after a panel discussion, whether it's on Sunday, tonight, whatever? Do you guys go back and re-listen to the whole discussion?
Just make sure y'all unmute because everybody's muted.
I plan on to. That's funny that you said that because I want to.
I do it sometimes.
You do it? Okay. Because I do that sometimes. And the reason why I do that is because, one, I'm trying to make sure that I made sense and I effectively answered certain questions the way that I was intended to. And then also, how did I perceive and how did I come off, right? When we're in the moment, we think that we're right and we think that what we're saying is right because we're in that moment and we have full conscious of how we're presenting and how we're communicating and how we're giving off to other people. However, when you go back and listen to yourself and you go back seeing yourself, that's when you start, oh, I sounded terrible. I looked terrible. And I could tell I was very frustrated. And then that's the moment when the light bulb goes off, you're realize yeah, I made an ass out of myself right there. Right. And I think that's the humbling part. So I was just curious if people did that. How you?
But I think that's growth too. Has a lot to do with growth. You can go back, you can critique yourself, maybe change your perspective a little bit based on what somebody else said and do better next time or have more knowledge moving forward. I think that's the whole point of the panels, to learn from each other, listen to each other's perspective, and move forward on what you can do better.
Yeah.
So Kelly, did I? What you saying that? Did I convince you of letting your male friend go?
Oh my God, we are not going back there today. We are not going back there. But what I will say about the whole friend thing is that having friends is a big part of what I do, you know, so it's kind of hard to just cut people off. But what I have learned to do is take that title off of it and use other words. Because I know the friend word is triggering for some people. So I've modified my words a little bit.
Hey, shout out to your growth.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate everybody here for that.
I have a quick question. They reference BPD. Does anyone know what it is?
Bipolar disorder.
I thought, but I'm like,
or disorder.
Borderline.
Okay. I thought it was very commendable, and like Louise said, it does help for you to actually have recordings of conversations and for you to go back and actually be able to view them or listen to them to see if what upset you or triggered you really happened. Because the issue, right, and this just happens in growth as a person, when you're going through a growing phase, you're still going to run into things, words, phrases, people that will trigger you. And sometimes you don't know that you're triggered. So you're instantly defensive to something and you want to go off and react a certain type of way when really it's not meant or it's not necessary for the reaction that you're bringing to the table. But it's all coming from an emotional stance. And I think this kind of goes back to what Hank was saying, when for women specifically, when we have moments where we're trying to get off how we feel about certain things or how certain things made us feel, which from a lot of times can come from our triggers, right? We also have to be willing and able to listen to the person's response to our feelings, because they may be trying to understand you or justifying their actions, not saying that your feelings are irrelevant or that the things you went through were irrelevant, but maybe that it wasn't necessary for you to feel that way in that moment because that's not what they meant. But like the man on the video said, that's when you have to separate your emotion from the logic. And I think for a lot of us that are going through healing stages, that deal with different traumas, most of us in our community, it's hard for us to do. As Black people, we wear a lot of our feelings on our sleeve, right? Our heart on our sleeve. So when people say certain things to us, we instantly want to respond a certain way if you're not taught to do something different, or if you haven't grown to a place where you can do something different and communicate differently. So these type of forums are extremely helpful, but unfortunately for a lot of our community, for a lot of people, they don't have this type of thing. So it's harder for them to have conversations and to actually be able to point out that, oh, that was a trauma for me, it was a trigger, instead of that person actually was trying to comfort me.
I think that's where maturity comes in, knowing your triggers and not blaming other people for your triggers. I went through my toxic relationships. I had a lot of triggers, and I had to realize he is not responsible for my emotions. He is not responsible for my triggers. So when I'm triggered, it's important that I communicate why I'm triggered and let him know, wait, until I heal from this, can we avoid this? You know what I'm saying? This isn't, it's not your fault that I feel this way. This came from a past, but I need, in order for me to, like, when we used to have our arguments, we both can't help getting loud, but can we avoid curse words or calling each other out at each other's name? Can we just start there? And I think that's very, very important. So yeah, I just want to say that.
I would chime in to say that if you're a person that's triggered and you recognize certain patterns in your communication with others, then maybe you should be alone. Maybe you shouldn't be in a relationship. We have to sometimes take a step back and determine that, you know, it's great to be in love. It's great to have a companion, but maybe we're not ready for that because we have so many internal struggles that we haven't overcome yet. Be realistic with yourself. You don't have to be with someone. Sit alone. And a lot of us are afraid to sit alone within ourselves and learn ourselves so that we can deal with that emotional baggage, so that we can grow and heal from past trauma. So we're not triggered and we don't bring that bearing into someone else and lash out on our partner who maybe only wants to help or can actually provide that guidance. Now we're missing out on good people because we're cussing them out, because we arguing, because we, you know, if our response to them. You know, we just don't know how to deal with people. So you need to sit with yourself. There's therapy. You know, I just think that some people need to step back if they find themselves in a constantly combative nature. If you have a mental disorder, you need to deal with your disorder and realize what it is and how it's impactful. Study up on it, read up on it, become aware of what's, you know, out there, not only in yourself, read up on psychology. You know, it's a whole profession and what do you call it, line of learning that we all should have some type of knowledge of as we interact with people just in general to learn how to communicate. So, you know, fall back from a relationship if you find yourself, you know, always in a situation where you're triggered.
I want to highlight something that she brought up real quick. Some people need to learn how to be alone, but unfortunately, a lot of people can't be alone, right? It's like the worst, what's the worst kind of treatment any prisoner could have? Isolation. You know what I'm saying, right? It's the worst thing. Like their mind and body starts to kind of break down, and people can't be away from certain people for a long period of time. It's like you need those pockets of moment of being alone, but then also be around like human interaction. And there's a balance that a lot of people just haven't figured out. Like you.
All right. Go ahead and switch it up a little bit. Anybody have anything quick to say real quick before I switch this? All right, here we go.
We entered this conversation kind of assuming that the grace was one-sided. So grandpa didn't give grandma any kind of grace. Grandpa,
you're running the streets.
but see, again, these assumptions are fundamentally flawed because sometimes when grandpa came back from Vietnam or he came back from Germany, he came back to find somebody else's kid. And he raised that kid. But we don't talk about that.
He had some. He left some in Japan. My uncle didn't say this. For real.
But see, hold on. My point is this. When we talk about grace, we talk about it from the perspective of assuming that one party was benevolent, aka grandma, and one party was vindictive, aka grandpa. So even in the scenario I just gave you where grandpa had to raise some other man's child, you will come up with another scenario as to why maybe he had another family, but when it's the other way around, we don't default to coming up with other assumptions. Like, for instance, grandpa beat grandma's ass. We don't say, well, grandma was probably fucking the milkman. We don't say stuff like, no. But whenever it's time to acknowledge the ways that men are hurt, we have to rationalize. And it's not even a black thing. I think generally, we don't know how to view men as victims. We don't know how to view women as perpetrators. So we will justify it in our mind as to why this man deserved X, Y, and Z, or why he was morally unjust and he had it coming, or whatever the case may be. But generally, we don't do that to women. All I'm asking is, if we're going to expect men to be, to have softer hands, to my analogy, and to have more grace in the whole nine, we have to, first of all, acknowledge the reasons why, whether overtly or covertly, women have also participated in the things that made our hands rough. Now, whether women asked us to go to war or whether women enjoyed the peace that was created from us dying, it's part of it. Right. And all I'm saying is, instead of men need to be more, we need to take a beat to acknowledge all the things that men, for better or worse, had to become for you.
I just want to say right off the bat that's a classic example of listening to respond and not listening to comprehend. Classic example right there displayed.
So it was displayed up here earlier. When I tried to give the example, and a few ladies pushed back on it. No, there's no way. There's no way. Yeah, yes. Men can be the victim. If the shoe was on the other foot, if a man drug, like I said, if a man drug a woman out for 15 years, he would have been vilified. He'd been accused, like what she said, like granddaddy got a family on the other side of town. Same thing. Oh, he cheating. He got another woman. He probably got pregnant. He's probably trying to get out of it because he don't want to have to answer the questions. But we can't act like that doesn't. A man, like he said, a man can't be a victim. Yeah, a man could be a victim. Now, most of the time, men don't say anything, and he just accept it and keep it moving. But a woman gonna let me know she was a victim. She gonna tell everybody, her friends, her family, everybody gonna know. The neighborhood gonna know. The church folk gonna know. Everybody gonna know. A man just accepting and suffer in silence. I'll leave it. So I know my buddy died. He's gonna need that time. Shout out to you, man.
You know, Love Dorsey said something about what you just said, Hank, about the victimhood thing, and she said something I always thought was interesting, where she said for women sometimes victimhood can kind of be a flex, and you kind of mentioned that, how you said like how a woman can go will tell everybody that they're a victim, because the thing is, like, it's like reminiscent of Beyonce's Survivor, right? If you haven't been a victim, you can't be a survivor, but if you are a victim, you can always say that you are a survivor. So I survived this, I survived this, I survived this, and that's what makes me the woman I am today. And I feel like for a lot of women, that's the story that they like to run with. But for men, I don't think many men can really use that story, because if you say you survived, it's like, okay, that's what you're supposed to do. Like, yeah, nigga, you survived. And so, yeah, I agree with that. I definitely believe that there is like a societal block with us being able to see men as victims and being able to see women as perpetrators.
Go ahead, Kelly. You want to say something? Okay.
I think that narrative is slowly changing nowadays. And it might be because of our access to social media and men deciding to speak out more about how they feel and how they're treated in their experiences. But I think more now than ever before, we are able to view men and your trauma and understand that you have been victimized as well in certain ways. And because of that, women are deciding to handle their men differently, right? I know that there's always this huge narrative of men against women, but in everyday life, everyday people, I notice women and even myself handling men differently based off of the knowledge that we've gained from the information we have nowadays. Like King stated, the reason you know that a woman has been victimized is because we share it. The lack of men being able to share or wanting to share information has created this narrative that you are strong enough to bear it alone, that you do not want to be seen as a victim and no one will treat you as such. And because of that, women will disregard your feelings, your emotions, how you may deal with things, the things you go through. And even if they do acknowledge it, a lot of times they will make other excuses, like we just saw in that video, where it's, well, it's still your fault because. And a lot of men will just take it on the chin. But nowadays, men are deciding not to do that anymore. They're speaking out more about what they go through, why they decided to do things, how they feel, how they think, what makes them tick and move certain type of ways. And I honestly feel that that helps women more. You being a little bit more vulnerable and being honest with us and saying, no, that hurt my feelings. That made me feel this type of way. I did this because I wasn't happy here, or I feel like the world is against me. It allows us to give you the empathy that you guys feel we never had for you. We didn't have it because men didn't show it at one point. It wasn't a thing.
You're on mute, Cloud.
Yeah, I think unfortunately sometimes for us, the response to victimhood that we get is very different from the one that women get, the ones that women get. And so that's why it might seem as like we don't want to share. I think if I were to give an example, let's say we were to talk about something like a robbery, right? Like if a guy was to be like, let's say a guy's on the block and he's like, yo, I got robbed. If he tells everybody that he got robbed, the chances are he's going to get robbed again, right? But the difference is if a woman says that she got robbed, the chances are that somebody might feel sympathetic, give her some money. A guy from the neighborhood might help her install an alarm system. Somebody else from the neighbor down the hall might help her fix her locks. You know, somebody else from upstairs might be like, you know, I'm gonna keep an extra eye on her, or I might come by, bring her some cookies because I know she's feeling vulnerable because she was a victim of a robbery. And I think that, you know, women are embraced very different with victimhood than men are. And I think that's part of the problem. I think we have to also adjust that in society too. You know, like when we're victims, it becomes like we're targets. You know, it's like, oh, he got beat up. Oh, let's pick on him. Let me pick on him too. Let me beat him up too. Oh, he got robbed. Oh, he's a lick. Everybody's gonna start robbing him. Oh, you know, his girl got took. Everybody's going for his girl now. You know, and it comes to the point where the only way for men sometimes to avoid victimhood is almost to become predators. You know, and I mean that's a whole nother conversation. But I mean, especially if we're talking about in the streets, you know, like yeah, sometimes the only time somebody's not gonna rob you is when you have a reputation for robbing. Sometimes the only time nobody's gonna beat you up or try to beat you up is when you got a reputation for beating niggas up. So unfortunately, that's like the reality that we live in. And I think that's the disconnect that's there.
But what you're speaking from, it sounds like what needs to change in society is how men view men who are victimized, not how women view men that are victimized. Women can go out and tell other women that things happen to them and we will surround them. It becomes a community sometimes, right? We will be there to help them. But when men do it, men use it against you. So is it really all of society?
Well,
Or is it the culture within men?
I think it applies. I think it applies with women as well because all right, let's look at a fight, right? Who usually leaves with the girl? The guy who won the fight or the guy who lost? Right? So
girl loves. Because if my man has a fight with somebody and just happens to get beat up, I'm gonna still leave with my man.
well, in the circumstance that you've already chosen him, right? In the circumstance that you've already chosen him. But in the circumstance where there's single women and single men, right? And there's a fight that goes down, or there's a war that goes down. One dude got a reputation for winning fights, and the other dude has a reputation for losing fights. Who do you think is going to have more women attracting to them? 9 times out of 10, it's going to be the guy who has the reputation for winning fights and not the guy who has a reputation for losing fights. So even in like the socio-sexual dynamic, there is a penalty for victimhood as a man. You know, a man who's been a victim more times is going to be seen as less safe by women. He might be seen as less of a protector, less of a provider. Whereas someone who's having success in those realms will be seen as opposite.
I think victimhood is a vibration. I think if we consider being in relationship to another, trauma bonding with you, I'm your victim or my victim, and I say that meaning we don't know where people come from. Like, you know, some people look at me, I make music, right? And I rap in one of my songs, something about like people not even knowing what's going on with me because I look a certain way or I fit a certain mode. Nobody knows what I've experienced. You know what I'm saying? And vice versa. So I'm saying that to say a man will still, I could tell what I've been through, my siblings, whatever. And a man will be like, that's nothing to surviving. But what if my surviving was surviving? You know what I'm saying? Like, I guess I'm just saying that to me, it's a frequency. So if we run around talking about where I've been and this person, like that happened. I should, you know, address trauma and healing. But if I'm looking to connect with somebody, I will hope that it would not be every time something happens, this man is a victim. No, it's circumstantial. Or this woman is a victim. How about if I'm in connection with a person, it's me and you versus the thing that happened. You know what I'm saying? Let's dissect it together. You know, especially you know what I'm saying? If our lives are doing this, okay, it's new. Let's move forward. You know.
I 100% agree that men are victims in this world, and I started looking more into men after my child's father killed himself. I feel like it does have a lot to do with men themselves, but it also have a lot to do with women because a man could be a victim by courting a woman, pouring his all to her, taking care of her, and she don't even have any intentions on being with him. Men, just from when they're little, they're taught to suppress their emotions. Emotions are connected to spirituality, and without that, how can you really defend yourself against your upcoming battles? You know what I'm saying? So 100%, I do think that men are victims that are overlooked in this world, and I do feel like it's hard for them to say I need help because they don't want to be seen seen as that victim, because being seen as a victim means I'm no longer dateable. I can't protect my family. You know, they can't, it's hard for them to put themselves in that victim mindset. So I definitely feel like it is coming out more on social media. And when it did come out, I used to take it personal because I had my own insecurities when I would see how they would talk about women. But once I fixed my insecurities, I realized those men just didn't know how to communicate and articulate their feelings. Reason being because they're saying, "Oh, you a hoe, you this, you that," versus saying, "You wearing them clothes, I feel like I feel disrespected by you wearing those clothes. I feel like I don't have anything," but they're just, outcasting it. And then it goes back. That's why I said we can't really put the blame, or back to what she said, you can't put the blame. Is it Remy? Remy? Remy. You can't. I want to go back to what she said. You can't just put it on one gender, because 9 times out of 10, it was a broken woman raising that man. A woman that didn't have chance, who taught that man how to communicate. A woman that needed that man to be a father really quick, because the man that she needed wasn't in the household. Well, everybody know what we deal with as a community, when it comes down to men and women. And we think as women, because we're doing the man's role, that we're not having an effect on what's happening, and how we're affecting the community, because we're picking up their slack. But by picking up their slack, we're not doing our spiritual jobs. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, yeah, men are victims, and I do feel like they should speak up more. And yeah, it might come out wrong at first, but as long as we as women start to realize how they're victims and help them express themselves, like, damn, I see how you feel, but that came out kind of harsh. Let's try a better way of communicating that. Until then, we won't really get to understand, because, well, I'm not gonna say all women. I'm just saying me, because I have that lack of experience with men. So once I healed, I was able to read between the lines when they would vent about women and when they would say things about women. But it's sometimes hard for us to understand how you're victims based on how you communicate what you're going through or what you feel, because you haven't been taught to, just like we haven't been taught to accept it.
I wanted to add one thing, because and I don't know if the fellas will agree, but I want to pose this. I think sometimes we say often that men are not taught how to communicate their feelings, and I don't think that that's accurate. I think what the real accurate manifestation of what we're experiencing is that men are often taught that their feelings are less important than women's feelings. And so specifically when dealing with women, men tend to not communicate their feelings, because inherently we believe it's our responsibility to attend to your feelings and that ours are less important. But I don't think that the same dynamic exists when men communicate with men. There's no barrier to expressing emotion. Guys say what they feel, get into fights, yell, argue, whatever. Guys will cry around their guy friends, laugh. All the depth of emotions are experienced. I just think particularly around women, a lot of us, especially from our moms, are conditioned to be like, well, mom's sad. Mom might be sad right now. You need to be a man. Your little sister might be sad right now. You need to protect her. You need to be responsible for her. And by constantly being in those dynamics, we're constantly being taught and conditioned to put our feelings on the back burner when dealing with women specifically. Even in school, if a girl's crying, the class stops. If you both raise your hand, the girl usually gets picked first. It's just like, if you both got to go to the bathroom, the teacher's usually going to send the girl to the bathroom first. And when we constantly get that reinforcement, it makes guys go, okay, well, there's a woman involved. Let me just let me not say nothing. Let me just keep it to myself, or let me be careful about how I express myself, because it could hurt her feelings. And then that's a big deal if it hurts her feelings, because her feelings are so important and mine aren't. So I think that conditioning or like breaking that conditioning in boys will lead to better communication between men and women in the long run.
Cloud, let me ask you a question. Do you think that men have a better time of protecting women's feelings or protecting women's mental security?
I'm not sure if I really understand how to answer that question. Do we do better at protecting women's? Can you ask it again?
Do you believe that men have a better time controlling and protecting women's feelings, or protecting and controlling women's mental well-being?
I'll probably say mental well-being more than feelings.
The reason why I asked that is because although I will never negate anybody's feelings, right? Because that's something that you're experiencing at the moment. But however, that sometimes does not last. I find that most people at times, are making permanent decisions over temporary feelings.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Breaking a car window, saying something out of, disrespectful, right? Weaponizing something that someone told you privately, right? Because you feel a certain type of way. But when you're protecting somebody's mental well-being, you're actually saying things to ensure that they stay within a calm and zen manner, right? I'm enforcing a positive reinforcement in you, so you don't bog down into your feelings, which then create this cycle of unrivalry. Sorry, excuse me.
And what I meant by communicate their feelings, I guess I should have said identify their feelings. Most men, when they're hurt by a woman, they show anger most of the time. When at least when dealing with men, I see anger versus he's sad. I see frustration versus he's confused. I don't see the emotion that he's actually feeling and dealing with. So when they tend to articulate it, we tend to articulate I tend to look, well, I used to look at the actual emotion versus, okay, what is it that he's trying to say? Because once I realized what he's trying to say, oh wait, that has nothing to do with anger. That could be insecurity, or that could be pain, or that could be, and when I say insecurity, when you look up insecurity, it means to not feel safe, So that's what I mean by insecurity. It's something that I'm doing that's making him not feel safe. And to me, when you don't feel safe, if you're addressing it like, oh yeah, da 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 da, where I'm from, well, shit, you addressing like that when you don't feel safe. Now I got to protect myself. So now I'm finna get, you feel me? Because you getting like that. And just because when I try to talk to other women or other people, if I'm like how you said, if I come with the womanly approach, oh, why you want to fight me? Okay, is it cool that now they think I'm a lick. So now since I see how you coming, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I meant by like, don't know how I feel like, because talking to y'all, this is a breath of fresh air just based on where I'm from. And I feel like where I'm at in life, I see the problem, like the people that's the problem in our community, and I deal with them a lot. So that's why I said that they don't know how to identify those emotions and then effectively communicate, because they were never given the opportunities when they were little. Like you said, the little boy, the little girl in the classroom, you gonna talk to her, what happened, woo woo. But the little boy, he's not gonna get that same experience for him to even learn how to, deal with that type of emotion. So that's what I meant by that.
I know
Hey,
I
Dad,
just want
we gonna let Pink talk because she just came up here, so we're gonna give her the opportunity to speak.
Hey guys, I just wanted to give a real quick side from like a more awkward standpoint. I was raised by two complete and utter introverts. I've never seen my parents have friends. I've never seen them hang out or go out and I'm exactly like that. Like I'm like at home all the time. I don't have any stories of how you reminisce. I have friends for 10, 20 years. I don't have any stories about hanging out back when we were young. I didn't do any of that. And now that I'm an adult, I still don't do any of that. And I say all of that to say, um, it's not necessarily that um women get the victim role, or well, we do, but it's not necessarily that it's like either side's fault, I guess. Like it's not men's fault that they can't speak to women or they don't feel comfortable opening up to women. And it's not really women's fault that they're like, oh, I got to go to my man for this, that, and the third. It's just, it's been indoctrinated for so long that it just seems like the natural order of things. And I usually don't say this, but in this particular sense, I will. We have to stop looking at it as men and women and start looking at it as we are people who need to get this shit out. We have to talk. You have to talk. Men, you have to talk. I'm every now and again, I have to ask my male friends. I send out a mass text. I say, how are y'all? What y'all up to? What y'all doing? Are y'all okay? Mental health check in. Because people forget about men because y'all are quote unquote the stronger ones. Like people just look to men like, okay, they got it. They can handle it. They can. And it's not always the case. It's not. Y'all have to talk. It's hard. It's difficult. Y'all are not used to it. Talk. If y'all feel like y'all getting on somebody's nerves, oh well. Y'all feel like y'all are weak, oh well. Talk. Get it out. Y'all have to. Because we're going to. But y'all have to do it. We need y'all. It ain't no us without y'all. Get it out. And not just to each other. Get it out.
Well,
right.
well, one of the things is about that, Pink, and I appreciate your point of view. I think it was great, and I definitely encourage men to do that. But ladies, you got to give a man a safe place. You have
Very true.
to give him a safe space. If you don't, he's not going to communicate. Why do I feel like I need to share something, a vulnerable moment that happened in my life, when you're going to tell everybody in the neighborhood about what happened to me?
Absolutely.
And now,
He is 100% right.
I cannot trust you anymore. So once I lose that trust, then I go into a deep, dark place of silence. I can't trust to share that vulnerable situation. And this is what a man will do. I'm gonna give y'all a hint. A man will throw a test out there. He will throw a test out there with something he already handled mentally and emotionally and physically dealt with. He's past it. It's no longer an issue for him. But he'll put it out there to see how you respond to it, to see how you act on it, to see if Aunt Malona and your church members know about the situation that I shared with you. If you're going to hold water or not, a man will do that. And once he realizes either you can do it, now he's more willing, he'll be open and more share with you more. He'll give you more opportunities to share his vulnerabilities or to share what he's really feeling. But if you fuck it up, you fucked up. And he's done. He won't tell you another goddamn thing. He will act. He will move accordingly. He'll act and say, you asking, well, baby, you all right? Yeah, I'm good. But deep inside, he's crying. He's in pain. He's going through some shit. He's going through some trauma. But you'll never know. Why? Because of 2 years ago of what he shared with you, that you let everybody and the mama know, and he didn't want that to be known. And you just did him bad. And he won't, and it's hard to get that trust back. Now, it could be done. It's going to take us some time, a lot of prayer, but it could be done. But he's going to be limited until you can win him over and realize he can trust you again.
Also, to add on top of what you said, Hank, as far as like the safe space goes, trust is definitely an important part of it. I think another good part of it is like creating a space where it can be only his emotions. Because I think a lot of times when men do give their emotions to women, I think a lot of times because y'all are emotional, sometimes y'all take it in and then react with your emotions, like how you feel about what he just said. And it might trigger you. And I think that being able to create a space where it's like, okay, this isn't about me right now. How I feel right now, it matters, but right now it doesn't matter. Right now, this moment, whether it be this 30 minutes, this hour, is all about how he feels, and give him the opportunity to say everything he got to say, get it all out. And then you just sit with it, take it, process it separately, and then come back later with your feelings. Because I do find that a lot of times what will make us as men feel unsafe in a space is trying to process and share our emotions, trying to identify them, like Di was saying. And when you're doing all that emotional work to try to identify, then process, and then communicate those emotions, and then you're immediately met with the emotions of another that you then have to also process, it can kind of become extremely difficult. Also, it's also can be difficult because you guys are quicker at processing those emotions. So it can become like a fight because it's like, I'm trying to process and I'm sharing with you, but then you're already coming back. So what you saying? You saying that means this and that, and it's like, yo, like you're doing too much processing, and you're all the way down here with the conversation. It's like, yo, give me space to get there with you. You know what I'm saying? So I think sometimes because y'all are so used to that emotional way of communicating, processing, y'all be jumping the gun, and it's like, yo, like we're not there with y'all yet. You know, like slow it down a little bit. Try to hold your emotions in a little bit and just let me get it out. And then like, then we could be on the same page of like, now we both communicating our emotions. And then I'll get up to speed as you learn how I communicate and you start understanding my emotions and I start understanding yours. I'll be able to get up to speed and, you know, give it to you just as fast and respond quickly. But I think that's something that has to be given time as well.
Yeah. Ray, I think you was trying to say something too, wasn't you? I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to say that Cloud gave a real good perspective on how men are like silenced in a way. Like I know we were talking about how we're just in general, you guys are. I'm thinking it's just from family told to, you know, man up. Like when boys cry, it's like man up. No, don't. You know, but when a girl cries, what's wrong, baby? You know, something. Not saying all households are like that. I'm just saying in general. That's what we imagine when boys emote, you know, things. But then you gave a perspective of it happening in school. It happening in, you know, I mean, in different ways in the household where that man has to step up. And what if he had a bad day? What if he got bullied? Or what if he, you know, just different things that you don't even consider that young men feel or endure from, you know, single mothers or mothers who are being abused or not, or both, you know, having both parents in the house. Sometimes the father's not always right. So, I mean, it's just, it was just something to think about. And I just wanted to just note that, like, that was mine, you know, that was eye-opening. Yeah. So the ways that you guys are suppressed. But speaking of being a safe space, man, I guess that's something to consider too, because knowing that we process faster, it's so funny because we're also indoctrinated to believe or to be in a space of let me find a man who can lead. So we're thinking you with me, you know what I'm saying? If I process, but I'm processing faster. So, but this is who I'm supposed to be following, you know what I'm saying? So I think it's something that we both need to consider that you're right. Maybe if I did process it faster than my man, I do have to create or already have had boundaries in place to give you space to go through it. You know what I mean? And catch up with me and decide we can have you know, at least to the point we can have a conversation. But I think that's what, I mean, that's just something to consider on both ends. Yeah, this conversation was cool.
Yeah, now I could self-reflect. Thank you, Cloud. Thank you. Because that just made, I didn't never think of it that way, but by you wording it that way, it was just everything.
Look at Cloud, man. Y'all gonna have Cloud cheesing all night, man.
No, for real, because it's almost like that's why men should talk more, because that was beautiful. Like that was as eloquent as it could have gotten.
Yeah. We're gonna go ahead and start to close out, man. But I mean, just final words too. Sometimes some men don't mind having that strong role. You know, they've been conditioned and they can handle it. But what I think they do need and would be just a nice gesture is just showing some appreciation. A soft touch. You don't even have to talk about it, but just walking up to them and saying, hey, I appreciate you. Just that acknowledgement alone can give them a little bit more strength to kind of push through being that manly man. You know, I was one of them people that I don't really express too much feelings. I don't think it's for everyone, but sometimes just having that appreciation or knowing somebody value who you've been and how you've been showing up all that time, it just says a lot. And when we speak about listening doesn't have to be with your ears. It can be with your eyes as well. And so you can observe and pay attention and be intentional in your observation, because sometimes people can be going through stuff. The weight that a man carries, dealing with your emotions, dealing with the world, like how society views what a man is, even the struggle for a man to endure the pain and endure the hardship without no complaints. It's a lot for a man to bear. So just you observing it and not having to point it out and just Hey, I appreciate you. Hey, I decided to fix you some meet. Hey, I decided to book you a spot day. Those little things go a long way. So keep that in mind as you guys paying attention to that special guy in your life. Also, fathers too, man. Even if he's a good father, show that man some love, man. That being said, hope y'all enjoyed this dialogue tonight. I want to thank every individual on this panel, especially the people. It's refreshing to see some new faces on here. You guys were awesome. Hopefully you guys will do it again and come back. We would love to have you. Hit that link that's pinned to the top of the chat, you guys. That is the Assured Man. That is to get your beard care. That's a nice gesture as well. If you see his beard is struggling, get him that Assured Man right now. That's a perfect way to start off. That link is pinned to the top of the chat. Also, take care of your skin, men. Take care of your skin. Hit the like button. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And we are out, y'all. Y'all take care. Y'all enjoy the rest of
Peace,
your
guys. Good night. Good night.